You see, something's going to happen.
What? What's going to happen?
Something wonderful.
What?
I understand how you feel. You see, it's all very clear to me now.
Welcome to the Occult Rejects. This episode, I got a bunch of us here, and I got these two guys back on. It's been a minute, and I can't wait to chop it up with them again. But before we get to them, we will get to the rejects that are joining us today. First, we'll start off with Lisa, the Occult Reject Mad Scientist. What is up, and what is going on?
How's it going? Thank you for inviting me. This looks like a really fun panel on a wonderful Monday night. Just want to plug occultresearchinstitute.org. We've got some occult rejects that contribute literarily to it. And so check us out and occultresearchinstitute.org. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And we got Colby and Julia joining us. It's been a minute since Colby's been on. Very fucking excited. Finally get my man back on here. What is going on with both of you? How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having me back on. I'm excited to meet Jonathan and Jacob. Listen to their show probably daily at this point. I mean, they've put like 14 out a week now.
Damn, worse than me.
Yeah, and I'm really digging the Tavistock one right now. I'm like episode 2 of that. I'm really looking forward to the third one. So yeah, good work on that.
Yo, I appreciate that. That was one of those things where just kind of I had heard a thing. I had heard of, Tavistock, this English group. They've been breaking down the American culture for decades. And I'm like, yeah, I'll do a little digging. We'll shoot a little show about it. I had no fucking clue that this was going to be at least 3 full episodes worth of content.
Yeah,
and then when I found out how deep down that rabbit hole it was like, dude, we could easily make 20 episodes out of this.
It's half a season.
Shows. It's fucking ridiculous.
Do a whole podcast even just a podcast about it.
For real.
Real shit. It goes back to the 1914 or some shit, and it hasn't stopped to today. And it's like, we simply must speak on it. But yo, I appreciate the game recognizing game on that for sure.
Awesome. And Julia, did you plug I'm sorry, did you mention
Oh, well, I'm on like every other day, so if you haven't found me yet, you never will. But you can find me on the Cult of Conspiracy every Saturday.
Hell yeah, that's what's
Hell
up.
yeah.
Awesome. That's why I had to get you on. Ethan Indigo, my man. Sir, what is going on?
Peace, honored to be here. Excited to hear what everyone communicates about. I'm a writer and researcher, and I just put out an article recently on Occult Research Institute, and yeah, more to come on the esoteric and exoteric, and salute to you guys.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. And last but not least, JJ Vance, not the vice president. What's going on, sir?
Nick, greetings, sir. As always, I appreciate the invite. Fellow rejects, as always, looking forward to the conversation. And John and Jacob, I've caught a couple of your shows there, like your all style, and looking forward to the conversation. Nice to meet you. JJ Vance, host of Operation GCD, and perhaps more notably, not the vice president.
Yes,
For
indeed.
the conversation.
Yeah. I think Grok still thinks you are, right? Doesn't Grok actually think you are?
Absolutely thinks I'm. Yeah, I'll tell the Twixter AI Grok or Grok there to draw a picture, some Operation GCD themed pictures, and all I get is JD Vance. So you'll have that, I guess.
I mean, at this point, just kind of lean into it, right?
That's what I'm saying, right? Don't vote for me in 2028, though, because I'm not running.
I fucking love this.
All right, so now to the Cult of Conspiracy, guys. Jacob, you go first, please. Let everybody know what is up with you guys.
We are the Cult of Conspiracy. I am one half of it. Jonathan and I have been running the Cult of Conspiracy podcast for coming up on 5 years now, I think. And we dive into everything conspiratorial, whether it be the esoteric and the spiritual, whether it be the government 3-letter agencies coming together to fuck us as a collective. There's nothing that's really off topics for us. We come from very different places as far as this goes. I am a Marine Corps veteran. I am a Christian, and I have more of that type of boots on the ground, feet firmly planted on the ground approach, while Jonathan, being a licensed hypnotherapist who does QHHT with a discipline and a real concentration into past life regressions and speaking to the higher self. He looks at things from a very esoteric and mythical type of background. So while I keep my feet on the ground, he keeps his head firmly in the clouds, and we bring these types of different perspectives into any and all things that we dive into. So me and him, although we are very different in so many ways, we have found this weird gel that we just kind of get down with. And lo and behold, we found out we were slowly but surely collecting lightning in a jar, and we've just about kind of fucking the game up ever since.
Well, if you got a licensed hypnotherapist with you, I hope they think that.
Oh, absolutely, man.
Oh, man.
I was going to ask. I didn't know you were. I mean, that must work out well for podcasting, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, it helps you to get
That's
to
interesting.
understand the mind and the subconscious and what people are kind of ignoring all the time whenever the signs are always there. Call it your intuition, call it your connection to God, whatever it may be. It's something that is always there, and it does have a lot of the answers that you may be searching for. I'm somebody come from a very esoteric, magically kind of witchy kind of side. I have another podcast called Meta Mysteries, and we dive into all of the wild shit over there. We've had satanic, well, I don't want to say wizards, but people who are practicing Satanism, literally chopping heads off of chickens and sacrificing them to certain demons of the Goetia, and it works every time. So I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that I would ever do such a thing. I only like to dabble in sex magic personally.
Oh, for the love of fuck.
yeah. For the love of fuck. That's why he does it.
Sex magic is a whole other thing, too.
Do you really, Jonathan? Do you really?
I mean, I may have dabbled a time or two.
Oh, no. I thought maybe you were like, actually, I was like,
everybody's going to be doing it anyways. If you really think about it, it's just more of a subconscious kind of programming. So instead of allowing, if you're somebody that, I don't want to get too graphic here, but if you're somebody that likes to watch a lot of porn, then you're already doing that anyway.
Oh, yeah, the succubus has got you.
Oh, yeah, you're only just feeding the industry.
Yeah. That's interesting.
This is like a controlled burn theory. If it's going to happen anyway, we're going to make sure it's controlled.
Oh yeah, I mean, literally, it's actually really easy. I didn't plan on talking about sex magic today, but essentially, literally, you just think about whatever you're trying to manifest as you come up on your orgasm.
Yeah,
and that's it.
That's a typical, like even sigil magic. They tell you that, yeah. If you're using sexual whatever, yeah. But
meanwhile, I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
Not a very good one, I might add. But like I said, we come from very different backgrounds and different perspectives. But that kind of makes the show what it is.
Oh, he's like, I'll just take a wafer and a glass of wine, and I'm good.
Yeah. I mean, we don't always agree on a lot, honestly, but there are like the key things we can agree on, right? We can agree whenever we're talking about some government agency that's fucking us. We can agree whenever this group is using some sort of esoteric black magic. They're not doing it to better mankind. They're doing it to better themselves. And that's what I'm saying. It's almost because of our differences that makes the cult of conspiracy what it is,
No. That's great. No, for sure. I mean, I'd say the same thing with what's going on the Occult Rejects. Everybody has different angles. Everybody has their own like little thing, and it works out amazing. Yes, but no, sorry. I didn't mean to like go off on that or like put you on the spot. It was just when I heard that, I was like, oh shit. Oh, okay. All right, let's ask him. So,
it's your show, man. We're the guests.
No, it's just when you hear sex magic, I think most people just, come to, I don't know, whatever. So I was just interested to whatever.
Heard that.
It's just like rituals. All rituals is just like things that you regularly do on a daily basis anyway, like brushing your teeth.
I was going to say making a cup of coffee.
Or whatever.
Having my black coffee in the morning, very ritualistic.
Absolutely.
So yes, guys, Dudleytown, we're going to talk about.
It's going to get pretty wild. We covered this a few months ago, and the rabbit hole is quite deep. And we found something that, to be honest, only sounds like it could come from a Hansel and Gretel movie, maybe a Blair Witch Project movie, and strikingly enough, they kind of ring together if you listen to the story of Dudleytown. So it's going to get pretty wild, dude. There's going to be a lot of weird, like strange synchronicities and everything all throughout this. And it's going to get a little spooky, so don't listen to this before bedtime.
Indeed. And I should also make this mention now for anybody who's questioning the validity of this story, right? To make it sound like it's just a creepypasta. It's one of those internet things. Keep in mind that to this day, if you go near the grounds of the Dark Entrance Forest on the way to Dudleytown and you're caught, you get thrown in jail, no questions asked.
Yeah.
This is still to this day the way it is. They have highway patrol that go around this area looking for stragglers who try to make their way into this town. It is forbidden by all parties still currently today.
Yeah, I did find that I can justify. When I came across that, I was like, it obviously must not be all bullshit because they won't even let you into the fucking place.
Right.
Well, that whole area is kind of creepy. It's all got a very, I mean, Sleepy Hollow. New York's not far away, but that's got a very Sleepy Hollow vibe through there. I hail from Fairfield County, Connecticut, just south of Litchfield County there.
Okay.
Oh, so you're right.
Very familiar with those spooky regions, if you will.
Yeah. Fairfield's one of those witch trial places.
Well, Fairfield's a lot of things. Yes, sir. It's home to a lot of, it's basically a den of iniquity, kind of like Westchester County, New York, if you ask me. But
fair enough. But okay, so you growing up in and around that area, you heard about this story or the Dark Entry Forest and all of this, or was this still kind of one of those folklorish things that most people don't know about?
No, I definitely heard about it. I moved away from there as a child, but I have my family goes back to the founding of that area, so I have a lot of family up in that region, extended families and whatnot. So no, I mean it's something, folks. It's common folklore in the area.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
All right, so it basically starts, Dudleytown was settled in the mid-1700s by a handful of families, including the infamous Dudley family. It was tucked away in the woods of Cornwall, Connecticut. The land was rocky, the soil was infertile, and the isolation intense. Farming failed, people struggled. One by one, families began to either die off or disappear. The town was eventually abandoned, leaving behind nothing but crumbling stone foundations and overgrown forest trails. But the legend didn't die, it only grew. And that's when the rumors of a curse began to spread. So that's really where it all started back in the 1700s. And allegedly it had something to do with the Dudley family coming in there and settling. And it gets pretty crazy. So whenever we talk about the curses, according to one version of the legend, the so-called Dudley curse began in 1510 with when Edmund Dudley, an English nobleman, was executed for treason. His bloodline, it said, was cursed from that moment on. Supposedly, his descendants fled to the New World and unknowingly brought the darkness with them to a place that would eventually become Dudleytown. Now, here's the thing. So historians like Reverend Gary Dudley have tried to debunk this curse. He claims that there's no genealogical link between the Connecticut Dudleys and the doomed English trader. But if that's true, then how do we explain the wild list of madness and death and mystery that we're about to get into? So there's a bunch of really strange things that happened in Dudleytown, which kind of started all of the lore and a lot of the myth. The first one is that there was this General Herman Swift. He was living in Dudleyville. His wife was struck by lightning and died on their front porch. And then he reportedly lost his mind shortly after and died. People don't know whether he wandered into the forest or what. It's kind of unknown how he died, but I guess he went mad.
I should give the distinction also. There are countless stories of people who just decided to walk into the woods and were never seen again. Now, they're so many that we can't even keep a record of how many there are. But you'll notice that as these stories go on, that's a reoccurring theme of no one really knows, but it's believed they just wandered into the forest alone and was never seen again. This town kind of has that stigma with it.
It's kind of like the suicide forest over there in, was that Japan?
Yeah, in Japan.
Yo,
yeah.
That shit is crazy, that place.
It is indeed. Now, the other thing, too, they're saying that it may have come from the Dudley curse from England. There are some that believe that it was because of a Native American burial ground that they didn't know that they had settled upon. Some believe that it's because of the witch trials that took place with the Puritan movement. There's so many hypotheticals, but nothing that we can absolutely concrete nail down to be the reason for the curse. But everybody can at least agree that there is something cursed about this place.
Oh, yeah.
Are the Dudleys elite family or anything? Did they come over on the Mayflower like all the rest of the elite fucks with all the weird curses and shit?
Well,
no.
It says that he was an English nobleman, though.
He was a nobleman, but I mean, we don't know to what level. I'm sure we could look at the English records and see. I don't think he was an earl or something of like the upper echelon of elites. I don't think he had a fiefdom necessarily. He was probably a lower level Sir Dudley, right?
Just like your average scumbag.
Kind of, right. But they settled the town in the 1740s. So this is this is colonial America, but it was pre-Declaration of Independence and all of that. It was still British colonies, all of these things. And it would make sense if it was a family of what's the word I'm looking for? Dishonored British noblemen that came to a new place to try to reestablish themselves and make their way, so to speak. And that's a story that we hear recurring. A lot of the people that were not exiled from England, but saw no future of advancement there, it would make sense that they would come over here and set up a land of some type, a farm of some type to try to make more advancement for their bloodline. This is not an unprecedented occurrence, but for them to go into the absolute sticks, this town, especially in the 1740s, it's not like it was near some sort of a bustling metropolis. It was in the middle of the sticks, like 40 miles away from any other little village of any type. And I mean, 1740s 40 miles is a lot different than 2025 40 miles. You know what I'm saying? Here, it's a little drive away. Back then, that was a full day or two's journey to make it from point A to point B. So they set up with the intention of it being off the beaten path and where nobody could find it, but you would have to know where to go in order to find it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's and actually it was a Dudley curse. So whenever Edmund Dudley came over in 1510, all this crazy shit didn't really start happening in Dudleytown until the 1700s. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like a bloodline kind of curse.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. As far as these bloodlines you're all mentioning, the nobility class of some of these folks where they came from, that Swift fella and many of the folks that settled Litchfield County as a result of getting land warrants from service in the Revolutionary War. Well, that Swift fellow was a close associate of Washington. He was a colonel out of the Connecticut chapter of the secret society that started this country, the Society of the Cincinnati. So these are some people that are into some not only occult stuff, they're into some power stuff too. So,
oh, dude,
just as a note.
And his wife is the one that was struck by lightning, and then he went crazy. So just going on here. So another story is a man whose entire family died, some to disease, some in a fire, wandered into the forest and was never seen again. I guess the ones that didn't die in the fire. Yeah. Another story is Mary Cheney and Harriet Clark both committed suicide. And in Clark's case, she claimed to see demons in the forest beforehand. So there's that. Nobody likes that kind of shit. But it says another man died during a barn raising under mysterious circumstances, and some people believe that it was murder. These are kind of just the spark notes, and we're going to dive into more of the individual.
That was a real barn burner, that one, huh?
Yeah. So even visitors today report feelings of dread, nausea, and electrical interference. Some say that they've seen shadowy figures or creatures in the trees, even nowadays. So, yeah. And also probably the craziest, most wild, mysterious part about the whole thing is that if it wasn't so mysterious and lore-filled and mythological damn near to this point, then why is it that whenever you go to Dudleytown to this day, you don't hear any birds, you don't hear any bugs? It is complete silence when you walk into the forest.
There's tons of YouTube videos of this, by the way. People that, although, yes, it's prohibited, of course, because YouTubers be YouTubing. They get out there with their cameras and they show all of the prohibited signs, the no trespassing, all of that. The second they step over the gate and get into what was once the road to Dudleytown, you could see the dilapidated slabs of what was once houses, the cobblestone, structure of some type that was once a chimney, probably, is dead silent in the middle.
What is the stated reason for the abandonment and prohibition of the town?
So it had a lot to do with the land being infertile, and then something to do with there just wasn't very many jobs there. So a lot of people got up and left. I think that originally it may have been some kind of, don't quote me on this, it's been a while, but some kind of coal mine or something there that eventually dried up or something like that. I know that a lot of people moved there, and then out of nowhere, everybody either died off or left. And Dudleytown is really not that big. It's barely even, it's legally not even a town. Like, it's so small. It's essentially just a giant neighborhood. And so, yeah, it's it's got a lot of weird shit going on with it. But just moving on into it, as far as the paranormal kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So paranormal investigators say that Dudleytown is a dead zone, a place where energies don't just linger, they feed. Some even claim that there's a dimensional portal in the forest.
I was going to say that because of the silence. I was going to bring that up. I was going to bring that up.
You hear that a lot, especially with the UFO kind of stuff. It gets really quiet right before something happens. So yeah, some people claim demonic entities, time slips, hallucinations. It's got all the ingredients of something much deeper than just a ghost story. So also, despite being completely abandoned, the land is now owned by a private group called the Dark Entry Forest Association. They've closed it off to the public and don't allow any visitors. And their reason, they say, is because they want to preserve the land from vandalism.
So that is something that they do have. You'll have skids, basically, that will try to use the abandoned houses in Dudleytown in the middle of the woods where nobody's coming to fuck with them. And they use that as a spot to squat and do drugs and things like that. So there have been vandalism issues in the past. However, none of that makes sense as far as why it is that heavily guarded and that heavily no trespassing and actual jail time associated. Like, it's not even like your first time caught, there's a fine. First time caught, you're getting slapped and thrown in. That makes no sense out loud as to why it's that heavily watched.
Well, and there's not even any like protected insects or protected wildlife or anything in there. So the fact that this private group would just buy it and then gate it off from everybody to even enter, it's like there's got to be some weird shit going on there, especially if there's demonic entities and hallucinations, and there could be some kind of portals and shit. Could it be an alien kind of hotspot? And we're going to get to a little bit as we go down farther as to what else it very well could be, what grounds is it built on, and dude,
this is good.
So listen, it would also make sense to me if the land was dangerous. Right. If the houses were barely stood up and if they didn't want someone going in there and knocking the house down on top of them and it was for public safety, there is no structures that are currently standing that would be an issue in that regard. It's none of the official narrative as to why no one can go there actually makes sense out loud. But again, this is in the Dark Entry Forest. So the Dark Entry Forest Association has bought it and it's privately owned, and they said no one can go in there. If I'm not mistaken, Jonathan, are we getting to the last family to own it in the 1920s?
We will eventually.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Has anyone ever tested this place for like high levels of radiation or anything that would make people go like batshit or something like that?
Well, the people that go there like ghost hunting, and you got to sneak in because the cops, I guess, are watching it like very intensely. But I guess if you can sneak in, what happens is those, what are they, like EMF readers or something like that? Yeah. They start spiking like crazy, like whenever you go to a haunted house. So there's got to be something going on there.
Yeah,
I don't recommend messing with those Connecticut State Troopers. Those boys are a little bit demented, if you ask me.
Bro, they're assholes.
What was the? Oh man, you ain't kidding.
I haven't heard that.
Yeah, and But so, what was the word on the street in between the Revolutionary War period of General Swift and the 1920s when the Dark Entry Forest Incorporated folks moved in? What was the word around town there? Because I mean, obviously, it's not that densely populated, but obviously more folks moved into that region during that time.
So it's been off and on populated by different families, but it's never been a bustling metropolis, right? There is one story of a Civil War colonel, if I'm not mistaken, who after the Civil War, Union guy, of course, he goes up and settles in this town. He's sitting on his porch. Lightning strikes through his porch and kills his wife. Multiple lightning strikes have killed people in this place. Multiple people have wandered off into the woods to this place. So it's like basically anybody who tries to live a life there just has shit happen to them. It's insane.
I would question the lightning strikes actually being common. I would question the ground. Well, what's going on?
I'm not surprised by any of this. I like where y'all are at because I mean this is an area where this group, the Society of Cincinnati, would populate. Like I said, General Swift there, and that group is into some weird stuff. If you ask me.
One quick question: what this area was it involved at all in the French Indian War? By any chance? Because I know Connecticut was an integral.
Actually, we're about to get to what happened.
Okay, sorry.
No, you're good.
Yeah, because there's a certain Indian tribal nation that is there called the Shaktagoke tribal nation. And they're indigenous to the Housatonic Valley in Connecticut, possesses a rich tapestry of traditions and stories passed down through generations. One notable narrative is the Firefox story, which offers insights into the tribe's cultural heritage. So I brought a lot of these to the table because they're said to that maybe the Shaktagok or Shaktagoki, I don't know exactly how to say it, but they were there before a lot of this colonialism really started to go down. And they have some wild shit with them. So obviously Native Americans, they're into rituals and ceremonies and offering to spirits and medicine and spiritual healing and burial practices. And it's pretty wild. So whenever you see that, literally, this is some of the land that Dudleytown was literally built on top of, maybe a lot of those spirits are kind of just lingering around there. And maybe that's why a lot of the stuff goes on. And I did want to bring up, where was it? There's okay. So I'm kind of jumping all over the place right now, but because we're talking about the natives. So they have this thing, and it's not just with the Shaktagok tribe in Connecticut, but they have this thing called a spiritual withdrawal. And so in many native traditions, the land is sacred because the spirits of ancestors dwell there. If the land was taken violently or desecrated, elders or spiritual leaders might withdraw their blessings, essentially abandoning the spirits or asking them to go quiet. This could lead to a land becoming spiritually hollow or even hostile. Such land might be described as feeling dead, heavy, cursed, no animals, no growth, eerie silence. It fucking lines up. Right?
It does. And this is not unprecedented, by the way. Different tribes have different beliefs as far as their connection to the land, right? We see out west these native tribes that would torture enemy tribesmen or something along these lines. They were very meticulous not to spill an excess of blood because they truly believe that once the earth takes in so much blood, it gains a thirst for it. Right. So they absolutely believe that the earth itself has a spiritual nature that humans can affect with what we do. So if all of these elders remove their medicine and remove their spirit from a land, there are some cases where, like Jonathan said, it might be hollow and spiritless, but something's got to fill that void. Right. That is just the way that life works. And so with that empty void, unless some other people of a good spirit come and fill the land with it, something bad will fill the space. And this is why we have possibly some of the curses that are associated with this. Now, to answer your question, I don't think there's any reference to this spot itself being implemented in the French and Indian War. However, the Shaktagok tribe was absolutely a part of the French and Indian War. If I'm not mistaken, they became a part of the Iroquois Confederacy later on. I think they share a language family with them. So they absolutely were a part of it, but I don't know for sure if Dudleytown was like in the mix of it or not.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I do want to get to a little bit more of that, and of course the witch trials and all that kind of stuff. But I kind of wanted to tie my own theory into this. And I know that, whenever you're talking about the Brothers Grimm and Hansel and Gretel and all that shit, that was just stories. But as they say, typical people who write those stories said that they don't even know where they got it from. It almost just came to them out of the ether, right? And so they call, what is it called? Like a magic writing or
scrying?
Divination?
Yeah, it's some kind of.
Are you talking about like
automatic writing?
Yeah. Automatic writing. That's it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they all say that, it just came to me. I just started writing and the story came to me. So could it be that the ether was already in the air? Maybe they kind of siphoned it out, decided to put pen to paper. And so that's kind of how my mind works. So as far as, some of the things that kind of match up here, as far as Hansel and Gretel. All right. So the Hansel and Gretel story, it also talks about a dense, silent forest where people vanish. It talks about cursed land hidden deep in the woods where innocent travelers stumble into something unholy. The crumbling remains of a house, or in this case, an entire village, where lives were devoured not by witches, but by something far more ancient. So if Hansel and Gretel were real kids, Dudleytown is exactly the kind of place that they'd get lost in and never come back from. So just want to throw that out there, tickles your fantasy fancy and get really weird. So anyway, getting into it as far as the Connecticut witch trials. So while in Dudleytown, located in Cornwall, Connecticut, it's renowned for its eerie legends and tales of curses. There is no documented evidence directly linking it to historical witch trials or accusations of witchcraft. However, the area's haunted reputation stems from more stories of curses, mysterious deaths, and paranormal activity rather than any recorded witchcraft persecutions. However, the broader region of Connecticut has a notable history of witch trials that predates the infamous Salem events. So it's going to get into a couple of towns or a couple of cities, I think. Oh my God.
But you're not too terribly far away from Dudleytown as well, which leads us to another possible theory. Yeah, the Puritan movement, that all 1600s. So that does predate Dudleytown, allegedly. But is it crazy to speculate that if these people that were practicing witchcraft in these areas were under persecution when they heard of a new town that's way off in the sticks getting founded, is it crazy to think that they might have decided to make their way out to this newly formed town, to Dudleytown, and just kind of operate their witchcraft super under the radar? Who knows?
Well, and not only just that, but even the three more notable towns or cities within Connecticut that were not very far away from Dudleytown is Windsor, which is 44 miles away. Hartford is 44 miles away. And then Wethersfield is 48 miles away. However, the broader region of Connecticut has a notable history of witch trials. It predates the Salem events, as I said. And so the early beginnings, so Connecticut was the site of the first large-scale witch trials in American colonies, occurring between 1647 and 1663, nearly 3 decades before the Salem witch trials. Damn. The first person executed for witchcraft in America was Alice Young of Windsor, Connecticut, who was hanged in May of 1647. The extent of the trials, so throughout the period, Connecticut indicted 34 individuals for witchcraft, resulting in 11 executions. These trials were characterized by a reliance on spectral evidence and intense interrogations. Spectral evidence that you're a witch. Imagine that.
Spectral evidence. You know, something I was just wondering about with this situation. In my opinion, with the Salem witch trials, even going by things that, like, I know Ron from Wicked Planet has told me, and just from like stuff that I've researched in it, my opinion, I do think some of the people pointing the fingers were actually, if anything, the real witches, and it was a land grab because they wanted the property that the people were living on that they were making the accusations.
Sure.
So, like, did you actually kind of maybe take a look at the properties that these people who were blamed for being witchcraft, into witchcraft, like where it was? Where they lived, to see if there was any significance? I know that might be like a wild thing to even think of. I'm just asking though.
Yeah, it's actually pretty difficult to find a lot of information on this. Like, we found as much as we could, but a lot of it is kind of like shrouded in mystery. Now, I'm sure if you go to like the county courthouses, maybe there's some shit going on in there. But I guess what I'm trying to just what I'm just trying to like really get at is like, I'm wondering if you had occultists that understood there was something up at that area and they were accusing people who had property that was of interest of them.
It's very possible, right? But like we said, Dudleytown itself, on record, has no witch trials that took place.
Yeah.
All
okay. No, I was just, or even like
happened
land near
40 miles, 44 miles, and 48 miles away. But that's my point, right? Yeah. If these witches were being persecuted in their villages and their towns, it would make sense that they might try to go off into the woods and find a new place where there was no sort of a Puritan execution possibility for them, where they could operate completely under the radar.
Yeah, for sure. So getting into some of the notable cases as far as the quote unquote witches that were persecuted. So you had Mary Johnson. So Mary Johnson was executed in 1648, and she was executed after confessing to entering into a pact with the devil, marking the earliest such confession in the colonies. So
I wonder how they prove things like that. They're like, I found this letter underneath her pillow.
I mean,
and it says, I will do anything for Satan.
Now we don't know what kind of torture led to her admittance, but apparently she entered into a Faustian bargain.
I mean, you start cutting people's fingers off, they'll probably admit to anything.
But this lady in particular, there's a whole documentary about her on HBO right now. I just watched it, and it was like she admitted to witchcraft, but it was like she put like huckleberry jam on somebody's like fucked up leg, and that was like witchcraft shit. Like they were just all. It was like one of the ladies.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah. It's
Well,
based on
one
it's
of them-
on the perspective, right? Because you mean we're talking about Puritans, so kind of putting jam on someone's leg, that's the devil.
I had a cold
But,
and she made me eat
another
garlic.
lady that was accused, she like her husband was low-key trying to like get freak nasty with her, and then all of a sudden she was getting accused of being a witch, and it's like, oh, why? Because your husband was trying to fuck on the DL. Like, come on.
And
Like,
that's crazy too, that sex alone has been used to show signs of satanic influence. Because if you go far enough back, a husband's trying to fuck his wife and she says no. Oh, well, you got the devil in you. Now cut to the 1960s, and if your wife wanted sex too much, oh well, she's getting into a frenzy and we need to hospitalize and lobotomize her for being a sexual deviant. How dare she want to fuck? It's like, bro, what? Like, there is no pushing you. You know what I mean? But
right.
To that same thing, a lot of herbology, what we would now call, basically, I think it's right now 25% of all pharmaceuticals are naturally based and naturally sourced, right? We would call that medicine. You're using herbs to remedy stomach pains and migraines and shit like that. Back then, what do you mean you're not praying away your headache? Obviously, she's a witch. It's like, bro, what the fuck are we talking about here?
You could have just called it Jesus Jam, and she wouldn't have been hung.
See?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about right there, because it was like literally some of the stuff that these women were getting accused of, it would be something that nobody would blink an eye at like today. But so with the witch trials, I kind of like take it with a grain of salt, because I think whatever was going on in like Dudleytown was way more sinister than somebody like with the witch trials, like rubbing jam on somebody's like beehole. I mean, it just doesn't add up to me.
Oh, you're talking about the butthole.
Oh, the jam was a lubricant. I see.
No, hey, to that point,
Went to a leg to the butthole.
Actual medical practice. If you had stomach pains, they would blow tobacco smoke up your asshole. And that's where the phrase comes from, blowing smoke up your butt to make you feel good. That's a real medical practice that was done around the Revolutionary War time frame, right? So
I'm sure folks pay good
throw
money
a
for that.
blast
Sir.
of fucking weed up there.
Yeah.
That's a high class service these days.
These days it costs you a little extra, if you know what I mean. But no,
Yeah,
my point
exactly.
is, that was medical procedure during this day and age. Never mind the fact taking something with a little alkaline in it to settle a over acidic stomach. Right, that's witchcraft. So I agree with you, and we all remember reading The Crucible, right, in school, the proctors and all these things. No one actually died as a result of the witchcraft until the Witchfinder General came to town and started murdering people over the whole affair. Right. So I agree with you. A lot of these witch trials that took place were usually people that were trying to settle beefs. And so, of course, you're going to throw your neighbor under the bus, especially if it's a neighbor that you want their land or you're jealous of them for whatever reason. Yeah, you'll run it up the whole thing.
One of the first ones was like Tituba. You know, she was like a house slave or something. And she was doing the same thing. She was using like African practices to like uses remedies and stuff like that, and she got accused of witchcraft. But I mean, like this Dudleytown stuff, like that's legit. Like people are disappearing, people are getting struck by lightning, people are seeing fucking demons in the trees. That stuff, that's different. I feel like that's a lot crazier than some, like I said before, the witch trials. I don't even know how creepy those really are anymore.
And to your
but
point,
isn't it interesting with the witch? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, to your point, in Louisiana, in New Orleans, okay, in the big famous cathedral in front of Jefferson Square, you had Catholic masses held in that cathedral in the morning, and then Marie Laveau would be doing voodoo rituals at the same altar in the evenings, and that was done for forever. So how wildly drastic the world changes in the matter of 100 years. 100% with you.
Yeah, dude.
To the note, if I may there, Jonathan, to the note of the witch trials, isn't it, you know, I understand the malfeasance and nefarious actors and whatnot. I don't disagree. I do think it's not mutually exclusive, though, whereas isn't it odd that we see major folks in the occult then, you know, in the witch trials are essentially figures in the occult seen today, not the least of which Jack Parsons, Marvel Jack Parsons, Mr. Agape Lodge himself of the OTO, his fourth great grandmother was an accused witch. His fourth great grandmother Parsons was an accused witch.
Wow.
That's one such example. There's many others.
You know who else's grandma was an accused witch? Fucking
Not
Sarah
mine.
Jessica Parker, dude. That
Oh, I thought you were going to tell me mine. I was like, not mine, Julie.
Wait a minute. Horseface's great grandmother was a witch.
That's why.
That's
That's
such
they
a long
put her
face.
out
On the
in
nose.
Focus 100
Wow.
because
And also,
her great
Yo,
grandma
that
was
is
in
funny.
the fucking witch trials.
Can we also acknowledge that was the only role where she looked attractive ever? Period.
Yeah, they
ever.
put like 5 inches of makeup on her though.
Yeah, horse face.
Dude,
That in the corset. I think the
Yeah,
corset
yeah.
did her a
Right.
serious service. But yeah, no, other than that, they tried to make her look like an icon in Sex and the City. And it's like, y'all, stop it. Stop it right now.
Nobody's buying that shit, dude. And then she dated John F. Kennedy Jr. Like, what the fuck was he thinking?
Come on.
Swear to
Yeah,
God,
for like a year.
they
Yeah.
dated, dude. Horse face McGillicuddy, as Colby says.
hey, don't talk about him like that. He's a very handsome gentleman. Okay.
Right?
Oh, she's
But-
handsome. Anyway.
Yeah, her great grandma was accused in the witch trials. Just a FYI, just throwing that out there.
You got Joseph Smith's grandfather. His great grandfather was one of the accusers in that business as well. So again, there's a lot of these. And George Bush has a lineage there as well. So and many folks would claim that he's a descendant of Crowley. You know, I'm kind of of that mindset. So, you know, I'm just saying there's a lot. It's weird that you have this occult stuff from then to 300, 400 years later almost, right? And they're like, these families are still involved in the same stuff. It seems.
Oh,
I'm just saying, there's a little, even though these witch trials are obviously a lot of scare and whatnot, I think there is obviously something going on there. Like, you know, maybe it is other occultists blaming non-occultists, you know, to get the heat off of them to some regard. Maybe that's it. I'm not sure, but
dude,
very weird. to me.
I was tripping balls with somebody one time, and we decided
like
to
it.
watch Sex in the City. And well, I say we, but it was actually her.
What a show to watch while you're tripping balls. Like,
Dude.
of all the things, watch Fantasia like an
I wanna
adult.
jump
That
out
might be
the
the only
window.
time I would ever watch Sex in the City if I was tripping balls, though. So, I mean, I do like your style, sir.
It is crazy because legit, like, you know, you start seeing all the blurry images and maybe things get a little bit more distinct. Dude, I like busted out laughing several times just by looking at Sarah Jessica Parker. And I was like, what the fuck is she trying to fool, dude? Like, get out of here, Joanna, man. What the fuck, man?
And the big blonde lady, too, from Police Academy. That's if that ain't a dude, that's a big lady.
Yeah, you ain't
Jim
lying.
Trail.
Oh my god.
Her features are very large.
Very,
Was she a mannequin? The movie?
Oh, she was.
Wasn't it her?
Wasn't she? Yeah.
Yeah, it was her.
Love that movie.
why am I thinking that was Michelle Pfeiffer? That wasn't her. That was
She used to have that look to her before she went full Jessica Parker style.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm thinking probably the
Age did not do her
Catwoman.
well.
Yeah, you're right. Damn.
No, but she used to have a look like that, a very similar look to it. But yeah, you didn't pay attention to her, Michael Jordan wingspan.
I guess it's been a hot minute since I've seen the movie Mannequin 2. So, I mean, also, I should say, I don't know if they came up with a second, but yeah, it's damn. Okay.
Yeah, so just to get back into some more of the witchcraft cases. So in 1651, Joanne and John Carrington, they were a married couple from Wethersfield, and they were both executed for witchcraft. Along with Catherine Harrison in 1669, she was convicted in Wethersfield. Her case became significant in shaping legal and theological responses to witchcraft in colonial New England. So while these trials were widespread in towns like Wethersfield, Hartford, and Windsor, there is no historical record of witch trials or executions taking place in Cornwall or Dudleytown. The legends surrounding Dudleytown focus more on curses attributed to the Dudley family, mysterious illnesses, suicides, and alleged paranormal phenomena. Some narratives suggest that the founders of Dudleytown were descendants of Edmund Dudley, as I said earlier. But they didn't necessarily find a genealogical link as far as the Reverend guy. I guess he was trying to figure it all out. But anyhow, while Connecticut has a rich and complex history of witch trials, Dudleytown's haunted reputation arises from tales of curses and unexplained events rather than documented witchcraft persecutions. So getting back over to it, so that's as far as the witchcraft goes, at least in the surrounding areas. I just wanted to, throw that in there. Just we're trying to figure out, why is this place so haunted? Why is it so dead? Why is it so creepy? And a lot of this stuff is right in they're neighboring. I mean, you're talking about 40 miles away. Yeah, maybe back then it was more than a hop, skip, and a jump, but nowadays you can get there in an hour. So. Right. But then you got the Indian burial grounds, as I was saying, about the Shaktigo tribal nation, and they have this story called the Fox Fire Story. So in this story, a fox yearns to obtain fire and devises a plan to acquire it from a firefly village. The fox fabricates a story about losing his feathers. A fox losing his feathers. Okay. In a fall, and borrowing a fur coat from a cedar tree to gain the fireflies' trust. The fireflies, believing his tale, welcome him and bestow upon him blue shell necklaces as tokens of hospitality. The fox then attempts to discover the source of their light, leading him to the village's burial grounds, where he encounters the glowing form of the deceased Sakem. This encounter underscores themes of cunning, curiosity, and the consequences of deceit. So as far as this whole thing goes, it's just more so about the rituals of deceit and everything, and certain curiosity kind of killing the cat. But this is just one of the stories within the Shaktigoke tribal nation. But as far as rituals, they did have rituals and ceremonies deeply rooted in spirituality, nature reverence, and seasonal cycles, consistent with many Algonquin speaking tribes of the Northeast. So some of the rituals and ceremonies that I wanted to get into as far as these native people were practicing, they held seasonal ceremonies connected to planting, harvesting, and hunting. I don't think that's too out of the ordinary. Right. They would have ceremonial fires, drumming, singing, and dancing were core parts of these rites. Rituals were often honored. They honored spiritual or spirit beings connected to nature, such as rivers, animals, the moon, etc. And then they had the green corn ceremony, which is a late summer harvest ritual observed across many northeastern tribes. Likely had a it symbolized renewal, purification, and community gratitude. So not anything super crazy as far as rituals and ceremonies. That's pretty common, I would say, probably amongst most native tribes back then, for sure. But then they would have the offerings. So the offerings to spirits, what they would offer would be food, tobacco, or handmade items to spirits, especially before or after hunts, during illness, or in major life events. These offerings were made at sacred spots such as rivers, forest clearings, or burial mounds, not as sacrifices, but as acts of respect and exchange with the spirit world. So the reason I wanted to bring a couple of these up is because we were talking about, if these people really were like kind of misplaced and got kicked out, or maybe they got slaughtered or something like that. Could it be that they're the ones that kind of curse the land? I mean, I'm not saying that, it's inherently evil to have rituals and ceremonies and offerings. That's basically all of human civilization up to a point, right? But they would also have medicine and spiritual healing and some certain types of burial practices. So yeah, I mean, it's not anything too crazy out of the ordinary. But I did want to get to the Shaktigoke people, how they were indigenous to this northwestern part of Connecticut and eastern New York. They experienced significant upheaval and displacement due to European colonization. While there isn't extensive documentation of direct large-scale massacres by European settlers specifically targeting the Shaktigoke, their history reflects a pattern of displacement, cultural assimilation pressures, and conflicts that affected many Native American tribes during the colonial period. So you would have such things happen as far as the impact of the European colonization. You would have land encroachment, basically just get your shit taken from you, right? Then you would have establishment of reservations. So in response to land pressures and colonial policies, the Shaktigoke or Goke were among the first native groups in the area to be assigned a reservation. So this confinement disrupted their traditional nomadic and hunting practices. Then you would have certain cultural pressures. So it says missionary efforts aimed at converting Native Americans to Christianity often undermined indigenous cultural practices and beliefs. The Shaktigoke, like many tribes, faced pressures to assimilate into European ways of life, leading to a gradual erosion of their traditional customs. So then I guess it was, it was kind of involved in the French and Indian Wars then. But at first, it was actually involved in King Philip's War, which was from 75 to 78.
If anybody doesn't know about the King Philip's War,
King
that
Philip's
is a pretty.
War, huh?
Yeah, you know about it because you're from that area, but most people outside of the immediate area have never heard of King Philip's War. It is a pretty remarkable little slice of American history.
Yeah. So as far as King Philip's War from 1675,
bloodiest, right?
Yeah.
It was extremely bloody. Some, myself included, might call it damn near a genocidal slaughter. Some might call it a massive victory for the European powers. It's pretty crazy, honestly. And King Philip, by the way, he was a native tribesman that they gave the moniker of King Philip. That wasn't his given name, but basically they Alamoed themselves, like fully fought to the last man to defend what they called their own. And it was not pretty for them or their wives or their children. There is a monument erected at one of the battle sites to this day. Although, unless you know what you're looking at, you would probably never even realize that that's what you're looking at. But that's to this point, right? We don't know if it was native curses that made Dudleytown so inherently cursed. We don't know if it was because of the witch trials that were going on around this area. We don't know if it's just something within the land, like we're talking about. Maybe it's a portal of some type. Maybe aliens see it as a hotspot for radioactivity. Like, there's no guaranteed surefire answer to any of it, but there's that little bit of credence for all of it individually.
So, like, the ritualism, like what Jonathan was talking about earlier, where they made, like, little sacrifices, doesn't that remind you, like, not trying to get, like, way out there, but you know how they say, like, there's supposed to be, like, little people or quote-unquote fairies and stuff that live in, like, remote, weird woods and forests, and you make little offerings to them of, like, tobacco, and, like, they're supposed to not fuck with you as long as you do that. But it did remind me of that because, like, when you talk about, like, the fairy lore stuff, it goes with like interdimensional portals and, like, dead zones and stuff like that. And these people were making offerings and stuff. It just that's kind of what it reminded me of too.
Oh yeah, and you don't want to keep your house too clean, or else Brownie the elf will come in and wreck your shit. You ever heard
all
about
that shit, dude? All that shit.
Brownie
dude.
the elf?
Yeah, brownies, aka leprechauns, depending on which folklore you're reading from what country. Yeah.
They're friends with Robert the Doll, JJ.
No way, get him out of here. I'm over him, Julia. They got puckwudgies up there in those regions, though, right? They call their little demon beasts in the forest, their little elfin creatures, puckwudgies.
Yeah. And so that's the thing. You have the elves and the brownies and the leprechauns. That's seen as more of a Western European story arc, but the native tribes had their own versions of that. So how much of that story and lore came across into the founding of Dudleytown from Europe? Who's to say? How much of that was already here from the native tribes that lived here at that time? How many of these stories actually tied in neck and neck? Is that possibly the reason for what's going down in Dudleytown? Maybe it has nothing to do with any of this shit. Like, who actually knows? But like we're talking about, it's very interesting to look at the entirety of it, full picture for sure.
Sure. Yeah, they were they weren't the primary participants in the King Philip's War, but they did suffer from a lot of the aftermath, as many tribes did in the New England area. And then the French and Indian Wars, which, you know, obviously was between the French and British colonial interests, they were impacted broadly as well. So you have these wars that are almost forcing these people out and other native people, forcing them into reservations and not allowing them to really do what they would naturally do. So they did face, obviously, migration. So facing continuous pressures, some of the individuals and families migrated to other regions seeking refuge among other tribes or in less contested areas. Says that they did maintain some kind of resilience, though, that there is still people that are upholding a lot of the memories and a lot of the tribal myths and everything like that. But I wanted to bring them up, especially if they were going through a lot of the displacement and shit like that. I imagine if you're, they connect spiritually to the land, and if you're being displaced from that land, then maybe you would be prone to have a sort of spiritual withdrawal. But there's actually a couple of them that I did want to get to, such as spirit offerings turned to warnings. So offerings of tobacco, feathers, or sacred stones could be left at border areas or burial mounds, not as a blessing, but a warning. These acted as spiritual stop signs to settlers or trespassers. So entering the land after ignoring those signs could bring illness, madness, or bad luck. Very similar to what you're seeing. And also in some other legends, disrespecting sacred sites, especially burial grounds, provokes spirits or guardians to curse intruders. So that would be spirit offerings turned to warning. So essentially you would have, if they were there before and that was their land, they would have these certain spirit offerings to, ancestors or, the whatever they were worshiping. And if they were kicked off of that land, then they change, so no longer they are a spirit offering, but they're almost like a spiritual trap in essence. But then they also have invocation of ancestor spirits or animal guardians. So this is where it's going to get a little crazy. So tribal shamans or medicine people called what they would call upon animal spirits or nature guardians to watch over the land. So these beings could, in essence, protect sacred sites from trespassers. They could cause fear, hallucinations, disorientation, or aggressive encounters for those who enter without permission. And later, they would be perceived as monsters or demonic forces by settlers or modern paranormal investigators. So maybe whenever old girl was seeing the demons and all the fucking evil spirits and all that stuff, could it have been some kind of invocation left over from the natives that were, they had their ancestors or animal guardians watching over them, and this is what it would seem like.
Yeah, I mean, to a European settler, what would you call this thing in the woods that defies all explanation? That's clearly not an animal, but clearly not a person. And especially if you're somebody who has some sort of a background in Christendom, something that's unexplained and dark and ominous is clearly demonic forces in and of itself. But, it kind of, like we said, it all ties in and it kind of makes sense to paint the tapestry, if you will, of why this town is so, for lack of better words, cursed.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing is that, if you were to see a Bigfoot or a Dogman or, a Skinwalker or something like that, these people probably didn't have any idea about what the fuck that was. You're on the East Coast, right? And a lot of that shit's going on way out on the West Coast. So maybe they didn't even hear about these kinds of things, if they were even going on back then. I don't know how far back Skinwalker Ranch goes, but I would probably perceive it as something demonic, especially if you have actual witches that were being hung and executed just, a few millennia before. So you'd have the spirit offerings turned to warnings, but then you would also have the invocation of ancestor spirits or animal guardians. But then you would also have the curse through song or ritual. So some oral histories from Algonquian speaking people mention songs or rituals that can be performed during mourning or vengeance. These weren't casual curses. They were sacred and rare, but when they were performed, the land would become spiritually locked, cut off from harmony, health, or peace. And these ceremonies often happened after betrayals like broken treaties, massacres, or grave desecration. So that kind of lines up, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
They also had protection on burial grounds. So one of the strongest taboos in many native traditions is the disturbance of burial grounds. So it says that if a burial site was desecrated, spirits of the dead could become restless or vengeful. They might, the land might be said to cause madness, infertility, or supernatural occurrences. And in many cultures, these weren't ghosts in the Western sense. They were wounded energies that affected time, memory, and perception. That's hallucinating in a sense, you would think, right? If you're going to hallucinate, that's probably what's going to sort of fade out a little bit.
And the infertility that we're talking about, it's not just in humans, right? Whenever a land is barren and nothing grows there anymore, no more agriculture, you can't farm it anymore, they basically mean the land is infertile. The native tribes basically put these two in the same conversation. So when we look at Dudleytown and how, yeah, they tried to have farms that operated here, none of them took. And it's not like Connecticut is known for having unrich soil by any means. I mean, hell, there's an entire genus of tobacco, Connecticut tobacco, as a matter of fact, that grew there for years and years, centuries, that the native tribesmen knew how to cultivate with precision. Yet somehow in Dudleytown, they can't get shit to grow.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's not like desert land or anything like that. I mean, it's going to be raining a lot up there in the Northeast. So,
you know what this reminds me of? That other cursed town. Jonathan, you may have heard of it because I think your family's from out there in like Pennsylvania area. But it's that town that's on fire, that's always on fire, that inspired Silent Hill. That cursed
that movie's
town.
Wild.
Oh, you know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
I
I've
can't
never
remember
heard of
the
this.
name of it, but it's on fire. It's always on fire. It's a cursed town, just like
the coal
Dudleytown.
mine. The coal mine's on fire underneath the ground, and so they went around and started like drilling a hole to see if the fire is still going. They did that every few miles. What they didn't realize was they were making air holes to keep the fire going.
Right.
Damn. What is the town? I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and it was like the inspiration for Silent Hill or
Morgantown,
whatever.
huh?
But it's like there's these little cursed, weird towns. Like they pop up randomly, kind of like all over, and it's like the same thing as Dudley. It's like nobody can live there. It's fucked off, and it's just weirdness and like creepiness.
It's all
that town makes sense though. Why it's so dangerous, because the land is literally giving way because the coal that was the bedrock of it is burning away and it's falling. So like to say that nobody can live there because it's dangerous, that makes sense to me, right? At least I could put the pieces together in my head. There's nothing like that with Dudley. It's just a town, quote unquote town, and more like a village, in the middle of the woods with nothing around it. So why is it so dangerous? Why can nobody go? And there's no out loud, none of the answers giving as far as the official narrative goes makes any sense.
Unless there's some type of freakish, naturally occurring source of radiation out there. Because one of the other things that it made me think of is if you guys have ever watched the movie Hills Have Eyes.
Oh, yeah.
Like all the fucked up weird people were living in this little village out in the middle of the desert, right? And they were like testing radiation shit on them, and it fucked their faces up and made them like eat their sister. But the point is like they test out weird radiation shit on people all the time, fucks up the whole town, then nobody can live there. I think a similar thing was going on with like the Dyatlov Pass in Russia with like some weird radiation shit. They blamed it on aliens, but there was like a bunch of Soviet weirdness. But anyways, there's these little random villages and towns and stuff, and it's like nobody really knows what's going on, and it's happening like right under our nose.
Yeah, that town that you were thinking of in Pennsylvania is called Centralia. And
That's right.
Been burning since 1962, resulting in the town becoming largely abandoned. The fire, which started in a landfill and spread to coal mines below, is expected to continue burning for over 250 years.
If that. I mean, honestly, that's a low estimation by my count, dude.
America, even our fires are better than everybody else's.
You know what I'm saying? Come on now, you just can't help us.
The whole multifaceted occurrences and things going on there makes me think of some kind of geomagnetic or geo energy. And I looked at the topography. I don't know if you guys got into it, but it's at 1,500 feet, and there is a hill there, and actually it's called Dudleytown Hill. So it's obviously right on the hill.
Yeah,
and maybe a mound. But it also, when you mentioned the burial sites, I believe this may not be true for every culture at every time, but some of the more higher ups of the peoples would be buried up high at the top of the hill. From what I understand, I don't know if that took place all the time with certainty, but.
Oh, and also as far as the radiation levels, I'm just looking. There was a article back in 2020 by CornwallLive.com that says mystery as incredibly high radiation levels detected in Cornwall, which is where Dudleytown is.
Boom. I'm telling you, there's something freaky going on with the radiation. There's going to be some motherfuckers coming out of caves with fucked up Hills Have Eyes faces trying to fuck their sister, and I'm not even playing.
I mean,
I was going to say, because you mentioned Skinwalker Ranch, and then you're mentioning, what's it called? That they claim to have seen things that didn't look normal. And I looked it up real quick, and I remember, because of the whole bat thing with the white nose syndrome and the fungus and all that other stuff, there are cave systems in northwestern Connecticut that are closed off because they're trying to prevent the further transfer of white nose syndrome. Anyway, but so there are cave systems in northwest Connecticut, just as they are in Skinwalker. And so the radiation thing would make sense because it would be almost like a direct opening down to the ground. And so in another episode, we talked about how the earth itself emits in certain areas intense, I guess, off-gassing of radiation.
Sure.
You know
That's where they're hiding out at, in these fucking caves with the radiation. There is an opening to like journey to the center of the earth in Dudleytown, and that's why they got that bitch walled off. Because if you like, literally, you could stumble down into a cave and nobody ever seen your ass again, and you're stuck like with Godzilla and fucking Kong and shit, like inner Earth stuff. They put that in the last one. I'm serious. That's a real thing. The Hollow Earth shit.
Oh yeah, and there was a conspiracy podcaster on there too. I felt very represented.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Absolutely. And
awesome.
so this is the thing. These people would take off into the woods, never be seen again. Do we know what happened to them? Is it possible that they twisted their ankle and they screamed, nobody could hear them, and they starved to death? Yes, that there is a greater than 0% chance of that. Is it equally possible that they happened to wander into a very dense radiation cloud before humans even knew what radiation was, and they just succumbed to their injuries in that regard? That there's so many possibilities and nothing absolutely concrete about it. But what we do know for certain is something is so wrong with this town, and has been for centuries, that nobody can do shit with it.
So just the other day, we covered how Kash Patel and fucking Dan Bongino are both saying that Jeffrey Epstein did kill himself in jail.
Fucks.
So stupid. But what we found, what was very interesting as far as that story goes, is that the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York City, they shut it down whenever Epstein died. And that was literally where everybody, if you got convicted of anything and you were in the New York City area, that is where you would go. And so I find it interesting about how that gets shut down and nobody's allowed to go in there. And it's almost kind of similar to this whole Dudleytown in a way where, all right, so, big names die and then nobody's allowed over there anymore. And I just find it really strange about it. Dude, they don't even let anybody go on there. Like, you have to get like super permission. I think you got to pay them off or something like that. I'm thinking about, dude, I'm buying a fucking RV in October, and I'm just going to live in RV, and I'm just going to travel to all these crazy locations. And whenever that happens, Dudleytown is going to be one of the first ones that I go to, because I wish a motherfucker would, just, I want to go up in there and see what happens. Like, tell me to get off the property. I will be performing not sex magic, but some kind of magic over there. And maybe it's enhanced. We don't know.
Hey, that being said, I'll get you a Geiger counter for when you go, just so we can see.
I got one.
Hypothetically.
Yeah, 100. Yeah.
You got one?
Yeah. Because if it's not Satan himself, then he can get it, right? Like, I would be up in there trying to figure it out.
You know what I do wonder about this property? I really wish Ricardo was here, because he'd probably be able to explain these things that I want to talk about a lot better. But a lot of things that you had said, I'm kind of stuck on the lightning. I know this may sound like silly, but that's something that kind of goes along with the other theories that I'm wondering about. With the pressure, if you get lightning, I mean that's gonna. There's pressure behind that to create that to happen. Now, back in the day, I can't tell you what the contraption was made out of. He was on the show a few days ago talking about, and he's talked about it before, and he's posted about it. There was some sort of contraption that would take I don't know if it was 4 hertz or whatever, but it can start to compress it. And it would start to cause, and this was stuff back in, I think, almost like medieval times that was being used as like weapons. But the problem is that you couldn't direct it. But if they were able to compress this frequency, and it would cause people to either hallucinate to the point to where they could possibly kill themselves or others. but they couldn't direct it. I know this sounds crazy, but there's actually like scientific proof of this shit existing. Now that's compression again. You have lightning, that's from compression. I'm just wondering if there's actually like, not saying that contraption is there, but if there's actually like really something going on over there that could be causing people to hallucinate what they think is like Bigfoot or whatever the fuck, is popular these days. That could be a hallucination. Maybe it's not even there because of the area that you're in. You're just seeing shit.
Yeah, I also wanted to bring up too, as far as lightning involved in witchcraft, for example. So there's these things called witch marks and lightning stones. So it says in folklore, people believe that fulgurites, which are natural glass tubes formed when lightning strikes sand, had magical properties. These are sometimes used in protection charms or power spells. And similarly, witches' stones or lightning-struck wood, especially oak, were used in amulets or wands for added potency. Now, I don't know if that guy, because he was like a colonel or somebody high-ranking, so I don't know if he was into that. Maybe his wife was. We don't know. I mean, what was it? Mary Todd Lincoln was doing all the crazy shit in the White House, as far as like trying to summon ghosts and spirits and all that shit too. So, I mean, I would suggest that Hillary Clinton was doing it too, but
why not?
It wouldn't surprise any of us, right?
I mean, look,
she loves the occult stuff.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely. And look, Harry Potter had a lightning strike on his head that was supposed to be a mark of a curse that was meant to kill him. Let's keep in mind the author of Harry Potter used a lot of the grimoires and the witch's hammer in a lot of her spell work and a lot of the backstory to how magic works. I'm just saying.
Satan.
I wonder if
look, I didn't say it. She did. I'm not even trying to be that Christian guy, but at the same time, I mean, straight from the bitch's mouth, dude.
Yeah, she was definitely into some shit, but I still love Harry Potter. The thing that I was going to say, though, was the Dyatlov Pass incident that I brought up earlier that happened in Russia with how all those people died in a weird way. They tried to blame lightning on that, too. So I think that's interesting that is that radiation thing and the lightning. They said, they all got struck by ball lightning or some shit like that. And it was like, well, why is one guy's face melted off? The other guy's wearing the other one's like clothes. Some are missing tongues and eyes and fingers. It's like ball lightning, really, dude? Like, is that really what it's always like some kind of weird hodgepodge of things.
Yeah. And then they said it was a bear that attacked him or something like that.
Yeah, there was a bear. There was an avalanche, ball lightning. Yeah. Which
the fact that we are having the conversation of whether ball lightning removed this dude's tongue from his mouth. Also, an avalanche removed this guy's eyeballs. The rest of him's fine. Oh, by the way, a bear took the carcasses and it's like, you understand out loud the series of events that would have to take place. This is like a rom-com style series of what the fuck are we talking about here? This is worse than Cocaine Bear. That's the actual official narrative to that incident. Yeah, I actually looked into that.
I'm saying, man.
It's like worse than like a drug addict's excuse.
Oh my God. It's the weirdest fever dream, and the Russian officials are like, nope, this is totally what happened. This is real life right now. And it's like, my boy, my brother in Christ, what are we talking about right now?
Right. Just a quick insert of a fun fact. Tolkien was neighbors with Schrodinger and C.S. Lewis, a few doors down.
Wow. Yeah. Like Chronicles of Narnia guy?
Yep.
Oh, I love Chronicles of Narnia.
God, that was a golden age as far as literature is concerned.
But the fact that she was friends with Schrodinger's, I mean, they must have been discussing quantum stuff, which gives rise to a lot of the stuff in the books. So
it's very possible.
I did want to, there was some other wild stories. So a lot of this Dudleytown shit is really steeped in myth, but it's not necessarily myth. It's just that it's old. But there was another one in 1872. There was this dude named Horace Greeley who was running for president. And 1 week before he lost the election, his wife hanged herself in Dudleytown where she had grown up.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
fuck off.
I'm just saying, this little ass legit fucking neighborhood, not even a town, and all of these people are committing suicide. They're going mad. They're getting sick. They're wandering to the forest, never to come back. It's like, dude, what the hell is actually going on? And just to delve a little bit deeper on that Dr. William Clark. So in 1924, Dr. William Clark, he was a New York cancer specialist. He bought 1,000 acres on Bald Mountain part of which belonged to Dudleytown. And one summer, he went to New York for a brief business trip and returned to find his wife had gone insane, and she spent the rest of her life in a mental hospital in Dudleytown.
Yeah, so he bought this town. He was a part of the well-to-do aristocratic section of New York, right? I mean the state. I mean New York City, Manhattan. Okay, he was a very upstanding citizen, well-known cancer doctor in the 1920s. He bought Dudleytown with the intention of turning it into a country retreat for the wealthy elites of New York, to try to get away from the hustle and bustle of the city and go out to like cabins. He had so many plans of turning this place into a country estate resort for these people. He didn't own the town pretty much any time before his family started dying. And then he did nothing with it. He left the town, left it untouched until it was bought by the Dark Forest Entry Society. And that's who owns it to this day.
Yeah, I also wanted to bring up, too, there was this guy named Nathaniel Carter. His family lived in Abiel, A-B-I-E-L, Dudley's house, but then moved to Binghamton, New York. They built a log cabin, and one day, while Nathaniel was away, natives killed his wife, captured his 3 children, and burned his house down. And then whenever he returned, they killed his ass, too.
Yeah.
So wild stuff, but I did want to go a little bit farther along that. So as for the Carter tragedy, which I just brought up, it says Carter built a house at the forks of the Delaware Wilderness, right in the middle of Indian country, and so this was, I guess, beforehand. And his 3 children survived, and his son became a state Supreme Court justice. So, I mean, something good came out of there, I guess.
I mean, I guess it depends on what laws he passed. He might have been a piece of shit. Like, I don't know. I don't know what court cases he presided over. It's possible he was cool. I don't know. But to your point, basically nothing good came out of or ever happened in Dudleytown. It was riddled with controversy from its founding till right now.
Yeah.
Is there any reason for the name Dark Entrance to the company besides just this mysterious thing, or are they doing anything else?
That's the name of the woods. The Dark Entry Forest is the actual name of the woods that Dudleytown is in.
From what I read, it's actually the name of the road that brings you to Dudleytown. So it's the Dark Entry Road that leads through the woods. It's literally the only road that allows you to get to Dudleytown. There is no other way to get there. And so literally it's called the Dark Entry Road, and then it became the Dark Entry Forest, and then it became the Dark Entry, whatever the fuck I called it.
Well, that's not ominous at all, but it does. Like at the very beginning of this episode, I think it was Jonathan or Jacob said that it reminded you of the Okigahara Forest in Japan. And legit, like it's American Okigahara Forest. Like, when did they name that road Dark Entrance Road? Like fucking recently, or like it's always been called that? I mean, they know something's going on, right?
It kind of it reminds me of the Dark Forest in North Germany, right? Where the story of Hansel and Gretel came from originally. And I mean, there's all kinds of legends and all kinds of lore of monsters that lurk in the dark woods in North Germany, right? So to say that kind of has some sort of a rhyme or reason possibly to why Dudleytown is this village in the Dark Entry Forest that's so cursed, but it's not even just legends and lore. These deaths are documented. Not just in the annals of some creepypasta internet thing, and not just some kid's storybook. No, there's actual state records of these deaths occurring in this town. So, I mean, maybe there's a little bit of connection. Maybe when you put that much dark kind of mindset into a place, it just manifests itself into such a place. I don't know.
Yeah, I wanted to add a little bit more to it. So as far as the guy that didn't end up buying it, Walter Clark, so he bought his place in 1900 for weekend visits, talking about his place in Dudleytown. And his wife had a chronic disease and couldn't stand the pain. And then sometime in 1918, she committed suicide in New York City. But Clark continued to spend country weekends at Dudleytown. When Clark first arrived, Dark Entry Forest was just a name. There was no forest and no dark entry because Dudleytown farmers had clear-cut the land. But Clark wanted to change that. So in 1924, he and his friends formed the Dark Entry Forest Association with the aim of reforesting the land. They hoped to run a wood mill and offer recreation to children. So they planted thousands of trees. And by the 1930s, a New York ski club used trails for skiing, and summer camps used them for horseback riding. And visitors would also canoe down the Housatonic River. However, that ended up dying. I don't know if they got it was for a lack of visitors or because people were going missing. But that's actually so in sometime in the 1930s, they ended up closing it down to the public, and it was literally like built for visitors. And for some reason, not only do they like close it down, but nobody can even get in now. So it makes you almost wonder, like, think about like national parks and shit.
Yeah.
How people are always going missing and everything. And like they built this whole thing up. So it almost makes you wonder, like, you know, what's really going on? Like, why would you make it so illegal for anybody to go there if you literally built it up? I mean, yeah, it was like 100 years ago, but to shut it off after only literally they were only doing it for like 10 years as far as like reforesting the whole thing. So it's kind of strange how that happened. And
to me, it screams cult there, Jonathan. When you're saying it like the national park things, yeah, they are cordoning things off in a very specific fashion. And this property does abut a state forest, actually. So it is very secluded in that regard as well. But, you know, these things scream cult to me. So the fella, William Clark, right?
Yeah.
Dr. William Clark.
William Clark.
You mentioned Horace Greeley. He ran against Useless S. Grant in the 1872 presidential election and obviously lost. So, you know, Clark's both a Greeley, a Dudley, and his Clarks go back to the Salem witch trials. So when I say cult, I mean, you know, these things get passed down through the bloodlines, if you ask me.
Yeah, and I mean, especially whenever you're dealing with like so many people are obsessed with their blood lineage, and I don't know. I personally, I don't understand it. I know that, you know, blood magic absolutely works, and you know, especially it's done within a lot of the occult and witchcraft and stuff like that. But I just wonder, like, so as far as the blood, Nick, I wanted to ask you this because you're a fellow occultist, sir. But as far as blood goes, what do you think is so magical about it? Like, why do you think that spirits love it, or entities love it, or, you know, demons love it, or whatever? Like, why specifically blood? Is it like just because it's the life force?
I think it's part of the, I guess, the whole, God, I don't know how to answer this story in an easy way. I think blood is what ties spirits into the flesh.
Oh. That's interesting.
I mean,
so it's part of that. I think it's part of like
memory.
our original jail cells to begin with. I mean, it's already got
creature
iron
that
flowing.
Bleeds can't live without blood. So I could see it being a part of the, like you said, Jonathan, possibly the life force, if you will. I'm not sure if the blood is tied to the soul inherently, but I know that a soul can't inhabit a body that is dead and doesn't have blood pumping through it. So maybe there's a connection in that regard. I don't know.
You remember
What
I
if
brought
folks
that up
started
on
this country?
the vampire episode that I did with you guys about the zombies and the vampires?
Yep.
Because like even the Native Americans used to do that thing where they'd like slice their dicks over and over again and like bleed in a bowl and like offer it to the, because it's like Nick was saying, I think it binds the spirits. I think it binds your life force. I mean, the life is in the blood, but it's also such a spiritual essence. And I mean, to cut your dick over and over again, I mean, you got to believe in it.
You got to convince them of something to start chopping some dicks off, right?
Oh,
So I
well,
think,
just the trauma of
think-
that, what's released too.
Sure,
Yeah.
the whole ritual aspect of it, sure, yeah. So I think the folks that started this country here of America, the Society of Cincinnati, they very much care about bloodlines. One group that was an offshoot of them was the Mormon Church. They care about bloodlines and DNA. And I think a lot of it, I mean, they probably have numerous reasons, but I think they're big into like genetic memory, and like they want to pass down stuff specifically within, you know, some very, very narrow trees, if you will.
I could believe this.
Yeah, I do think some blood stuff might actually be a little bit more science than actual ritual, sometimes too.
Well, but I mean, that's pretty esoteric, especially if they've been doing this for hundreds of years to understand that there is some sort of memory passed down through DNA and
I think
bloodlines.
you're totally right on that. Yeah.
I think this is kind of one of those spots where science and spirituality actually kind of meets in the middle, to be completely honest with you. And I mean, I use that term, and it usually, like we brought up earlier, talking about like hermeticism or medical practice of using herbs and herbology, right? I think this is one of those times where like that I would consider using the spiritual and the physical world meeting in the middle. Plants, I believe, do have some sort of a spiritual essence to them, and we can also use them for their medicinal properties. I don't think that that's inherently separate from using them for their spiritual properties either. Blood, I think, is also in the same conversation. DNA, while it is a very scientific conversation, I think that there is so much esotericism that is involved with blood magic, bloodletting, all of these rituals. I think this is one of those times where it's the blending of the two, to be honest with you, which I think is also what alchemy was. I think it was the blending of the science and the spiritual, not just one, not just the other, the mixture thereof both.
You know, that's a real. I just wanted to say this real quick, and then sorry to jump in. I know you were going to say something, Jonathan. Just you said the science and spirituality and alchemist. Somebody I just recently covered, Robert Flood. He was an alchemist. He was into the occult, but like he kind of solidified, I think, like a theory on blood circulation that like we kind of still go on based on today. And he actually he even gave us like a thermometer that was used with just air and water, and because of that we ended up going to what we use today. So like again, like somebody like that was actually into the heart, and he had books where he was showing the nervous system, the veins, drawings of inside the brain and the eyes. I mean, these people are into that shit as well.
To answer your question just really quickly, so the blood originates in the bone marrow, which is the site of all the stem cells. And so when you look at stem cells, you're looking at the complete blueprint of the entire human being. And so you're looking at pluripotent and totipotent cells. So when you look at that, you look at all ancestral memory, all of it in that area. So the blood holds all the memory.
Interesting. So the spirits are essentially after your heritage?
It could be anybody.
Yeah.
It could be a bee from like thousands of years ago.
Right. I was going to say, and I'm glad we have an expert to explain these.
Yeah.
Because my garbage can dude explanation was obviously not that great.
Yeah, so like your immune cells.
Because it is, I think that is an important thing.
Yeah, like your immune cells, it contains receptors to all the different bacteria, viruses, parasites, and everything that all of your ancestors have ever encountered since the beginning of time.
Wow.
Lisa, you blew my mind with that. That's incredible. I had no fucking idea. That's crazy.
And now
you know who else was into that shit? Fucking Leonardo da Vinci was really interested in blood in the human anatomy, and despite what people say, he was a heretic, but he was also an occultist. So yeah,
when I went to the Vatican, it was less than a year ago already, the lady in there said that they acknowledge now that he drew the brain. That's
Leonardo?
not yes, on the ceiling. They don't dispute that is not a brain now.
That's why I mentioned it, is because he was obsessed with the human anatomy and blood, and he was performing autopsies in the basement of the Vatican, which was completely illegal for the time, but they were letting him do it.
So I was
he
even
would
saying,
dig up bodies and then perform, I guess, like a re-autopsy, but he was a closeted anatomist and physiologist. Yeah.
Yeah, you have some occultists that are. Go ahead, Ethan.
There's another way to look at sex magic too, but blood magic and specifically in more of a Taoist or Eastern methodology, which is very alchemical. And it's about developing, just like Star Wars kind of talks about, I forget what the chemical or concept is. Midichlorians. This is like our mitochondria. This is our mitochondria, right? And so when really an example of blood magic might be, at least for a health aspect, is developing ourselves to be functioning at a higher rate. And maybe to Nick's point, it's also allegorical for when our blood has more midichlorian or whatever the magic is, the mitochondria and different chemicals that are, enabling electrical flow better. Maybe we can make more spiritual connection beyond that too. So the mitochondria, I think, is a real physical aspect of blood magic that we can raise, right? Without the Taoists, they don't hurt themselves.
One of the things that you would look at, like blood, and this will be the last thing I say, is that it is the ability to carry metal and then be conductive and generate electricity throughout the body, right? It's what keeps the electrical system, aside from the neurons and all that other stuff. But if you were to look at the heme group, which is it looks like a Maltese cross. It looks like all of the symbolism, whether it's the swastika or whatever, it looks like all the symbolism of ancient esoteric, the heme group that holds the iron within the red blood cell. So you see it over and over again throughout the blood system.
We're talking about the blood and how there's a connection to the bones through the marrow and things like this. This kind of gives a whole nother light to why so many cultures do bone carvings on the dead and use that as a part of their esoteric practices, right? We think of that because, oh, well, bones, it's a rigid thing. They could carve into it easily and it's something that they could pass down. Sure, out loud, that makes sense. Or is that a way to do kind of third-party blood magic through bones and through runes and all of these things? I see the connection 100%.
I think
we're talking a little necromancy, sir. Is that what we're talking here?
Oh, 1000%, brother.
As a former Mormon, I know what you're talking about, and I think you're onto something there.
Yep.
Also, bones
Mormons love necromancy.
Fire. Like, it takes a lot to break down bones. When you talk about like cremation or whatever, you put them in the oven, you jack it up to 500 degrees or whatever. When they're done, they still have to pulverize the bones.
Oh yeah, there's still chunks that come out, 100%.
Yeah, out of the cremation process. So bones endure. That may be also another reason why they also do the carvings.
I could see it 100%.
Damn, okay.
You know, Ethan. Real quick, I just want to say, Ethan, you talked about, I guess, like the electricity and the blood and the whole thing with like kind of talking about, I guess, like Star Wars, going back to the stuff inside their blood. If you eat, I mean, it could just be a coincidence, but if you even think about the dudes at the end, I mean, those motherfuckers are shooting electricity out of their fingertips.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he got a lot of his ideas from chi-related topics, not even like generally, but specifically. A lot of the Force, really, it's very Bruce Lee-ish too.
Oh, dude. Jacob actually bet me that I couldn't learn to harness my chi to be able to move things just with my own force. And so in a couple of weeks, we're going out to Florida for Bohemian Grove, and I'm going to put on a fucking spectacle for everybody over there. And I'm going to turn Jacob into a believer because shun the goddamn believers, okay? I will move shit with my mind like I am a Jedi.
I'm actually working on a little video presentation right now, just like it was the guy Senpai Chan, whatever, which the name alone, the jokes write themselves, everybody. I hate to be that guy, but shit. And there's tons of videos of this guy going like, ugh, and like moving things. I'm working on my own little video presentation for you. I'm going to show it on the Cult here in about a week of me harnessing my chi to move things. Yeah, don't worry. It's going to be wonderful.
How dare you?
What? I'm trying to get a little more woo-woo. I'm going to show you how I could be moving things with my hands, bro. Total.
Have you guys heard of Andrea Puharich?
The name sounds familiar. Jog my memory here, Julia.
He came out in the late 60s, early 70s, and he was with this other guy named Uri Geller. And they were trying to teach people how to move things with their minds and bend spoons. And like, he was one of the first like telekinesis guys.
He's getting really big right now because of the telepathy tapes. And like Nephilim Death Squad, they're kind of tying him into it. And their presentation on it's pretty interesting.
Hell yeah.
A lot of Scientology stuff with Uri Geller, Andre Puharich, because they did all that through SRI with folks like Hal Putoff, who's been telling folks since 1992 that aliens eat strawberry ice cream in Nevada, and he's still today on Joe Rogan spouting off more nonsense. But some folks never learn, even though he's an OT7, OT level 7 Xenu, disciple of Scientology.
Dude, we just did an episode on Scientology, and we actually had some people message us, be like, "Bro, y'all might need to be careful. They'll come after you." First of all,
please do.
Yeah.
First of all, they can fucking try.
You're fine.
Okay? You don't get red ready, we stay ready, first of all. Second of all we did on that episode was just bring up other people that brought things to light and how they went out of their way to fuck over, like out of their way to ruin these people's lives. The level of spy fieldcraft that was done to ruin people. And it's like, first of all, Tom Cruise can come get some whenever he's ready. Okay, I am not worried about the Scientology Pope coming in.
Dude, he does his own stunts, man.
I mean, I'm not going to.
They have superpowers. You realize that, right?
What's he gonna do? Reach up and punch me in the knee?
He's like he's 5'5". I'm pretty sure he's like a
I think
midget.
he's shorter than that, actually.
No, that's for sure.
He's super fucking short. But if I would not fuck with Jacob anyways, because I asked him to send me a video clip for my 90s series, and he's walking around in his backyard just wielding an axe, just tossing it around haphazardly. I'm like, fuck yeah. Jacob.
I keep weapons around me, but that's because I do armored fighting. So I mean, it was weird that I had the axe in my hand when I sent that video. I was actually like hitting my dummy and like getting a workout in. I was like, oh yeah, I gotta send that to Julia. Awesome. So I did have an axe. It's dull. I should mention, just like the one behind me. So
it made the video. It made the video, especially as you're talking about like John Benet Ramsey swinging, and you're just like swinging your axe around. It was great.
Watch this video.
I gotta check this shit out.
This is the axe. As a matter of fact, I was just swinging around. Awesome. So yeah, for anybody who doesn't know, I do armored MMA. So me and my boys put on 80 pounds of steel armor and beat the fuck out of each other with axes and swords in a cage, and that's what we do for fun sometimes. So yeah, you know, you gotta get ready. If you stay
it's
ready,
like robot fighting, but you're the robot. Yeah, that's awesome.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. As far as Scientology goes, I think they're amongst their own little civil war right now as far as the coup being run amongst the internal executives and whatnot. And I agree with you on Tom Cruise. I do like watching his films. He does play a tall guy who knows how to fight very well.
Oh, he's a phenomenal actor, and I'm not going to take that away from him. But also, am I like, if I was to meet him face to face and for whatever reason he like decided that he wanted to try me, like, first of all, I am here for your smoke, sir. Well, I don't know what your terms are, but they are acceptable. But
so I'm saying, well, just beware. He wields that, Xenu superpowers because he is Xenu's number 2 disciple on Earth behind Miscavige. So.
Well, if he can make Xenu come down on that Boeing 747 like they believe all the aliens fly on, I you know what, he might get a convert out of me, but until then, I'm good. I've tried the little e-meters before, and for the record, just so everyone knows, you just squeeze them. That's how you make it ping. It has nothing to do with your electro anything. It has nothing to do with your spirit, man.
I think you're supposed to stick them in your butt. You did it wrong.
Oh, you guys close your sphinx throw on it. Yeah.
You got to insert one into the rectum, right? The other one goes into the mouth. That way you can complete the circuit.
See,
or it's like a saddle. You're holding one and you sit on the other.
Yeah. Okay. Well, fair enough. Maybe I just didn't do it right. Whatever.
What were
how the fuck
you just walking down the street and you saw like a Scientology booth? How did you get into doing that?
Oh, the e-meter thing?
He's like, I visited Clearwater.
Oh, no, dude, I was in middle school at my local flea market, and as we do, I'm looking at the butterfly knives and the crazy flea market things, and I see this booth set up with like 80 Dianetics books. I'm in middle school. I have no fucking clue what Dianetics is, right? And the guy that was working it looked like a complete certified crackhead. Like there's no other way to describe this skinny white guy. Right. And my dad, who had been around the block a time or two, like knew exactly what this was. But my dad isn't the type that's going to shield me from don't go talk to them. He's going to let me explore, and he's there to watch. My dad's just the best. And I see he's got this weird thing. It's like 2 silver cans that hooked up to wires, and it's a little megger, excuse me, and the little needle pings out, and I'm thinking like, yo, am I about to get shocked? Is this one of those prank things where it's gonna send? He's like, no, I'm just gonna go through a list of things, and you just hold them, and I'm gonna stop you whenever something causes you stress or this and this. We're gonna talk about it. I'm like, all right. Keep in mind, I'm like 12. I couldn't give a fuck less about Dianetics or any of this other type of bullshit. I'm, whatever. I'm looking for swords at discount rates and shit, but whatever. And so I hold it, and I'm thinking about like my friends and school and whatever. I think about my parents for a second, and it pings. He's like, oh, right there. What were you thinking about? I was like, I'm thinking about my parents. Do they cause you stress? My dad's right there. He's like, do I need to like walk away so you can answer honestly. And I'm like, no, this guy's not my therapist. What are we talking about here? No, my parents don't cause me stress. He's like, oh, well, I really think you should buy this book. It was like $70. Again, I'm fucking 12 and I'm at a flea market in Louisiana. What the fuck do you think I came here with? $70. My ass, dude. But anyway, before I hand them the cans back, I start squeezing them like crazy just to see what would happen. Ping, 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 ping. And I'm like, oh, so that's your gambit. You're just waiting to see when finally my muscles twitch. I'm supposed to work on myself for that? Fuck off.
It's because when you squeeze harder, it creates greater you sweat more. So it's measuring the sweat on your palms is what it's doing. So if you sweat more, then it's going to ping more. If you sweat less, it's going to ping less. And it is silly, right? I mean, but they're an interesting group. They're an interesting group nonetheless.
I remember when I was a kid, I saw that. That book was on the TV. I remember seeing it on the TV and in the stores. I remember
infomercials.
Even asking my father. I had seen it so many times. I had asked my dad. I was like, "What is that book supposed to be about?" Because I saw it fucking constantly at one point. And he was like, "I don't know. That's some cult shit." And he's like, "The guy's supposed to be dead," but he's like, "I don't think he is." Even my father said that.
The book sold retail for $25.99. This fucker's trying to hawk it for $70 a pop. He was a piece of shit, which told me everything I needed to know about the Church of Scientology. It's a money grab. It's a money grab.
Doesn't like broke people, so he's got to, you got to start capitalizing. Once you get in, they want you to sell. They want you to have bigger dreams than $25.99.
Right.
They want you to have them $70 dreams.
You really don't mean it if you don't spend the money.
Exactly. Dude, I'm telling you,
you don't want it that bad.
Dude, I'm telling you.
Oh man, these people.
You want to sell you can sell for $12 if you have $12 dreams, but they want you to have like $100 dreams, $200 dreams, so
some people's kids, man, I'm telling you.
Look, there is one more thing that I did want to mention as far as Dudleytown here. And this is pretty wild actually. So the Warrens family, I don't know if you ever heard of them, but hold on. What is this?
Oh shit! Is that me and you?
I uploaded that. Yeah.
Oh,
and that's
me and you. Jonathan beat the fuck out of me with a longsword once. Actually, I think this was, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, it got a little bent. If you want to play it, go ahead. We can watch it.
All right, sure. Oh yeah, you threw it up there. I thought maybe this might have been what you were talking about.
Fire it up.
Your groin, please. Other than that, how would you prefer to get this? With weird metal?
God, look how short my hair was.
I mean, go for it. Go back on your arm.
Bit fucking sword, dude.
Oh, just a flesh wound.
Oh no, yeah, it left a pretty sizable bruise, but the armor, it protects us from dying, but we have a lot of broken bones in this sport, like a lot.
I imagine so.
Yeah, I felt kind of bad for that. Got his sword a little bent up there, but he said hit him as hard as I could, and it's not too often somebody tells you that.
You got to tee off. You got to tee off.
Absolutely. I was charging people. That was a little farmer's market we put on an event for. Hindsight 2020. In Louisiana, it was 106 ambient temperature that day with like 80% humidity. Hey, wearing 80 pounds of steel armor in that environment, not my smartest idea I've ever done. Gonna be honest with you, but it was fun. The kids enjoyed it. They came up and beat the shit out of me with like frying pans and little axes. It was a good time.
Yeah,
sounds like a party.
Anyway,
all right.
So I wanted to get into this one last thing as far as Dudleytown goes. So okay, so yeah, it says over the years there's allegedly been everything from suicides to demonic possessions and all of the hysterical drama in between. The Warrens, so if you're unfamiliar with the Warrens, you probably know where they're most well known from, and that is Ed and Lorraine Warren, which were in the Conjuring series and stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Annabelle the doll, right?
Exactly, yeah, Annabelle as well.
One they just lost. They just lost that little
Robert's
doll,
sister.
In New Orleans,
Robert's cousin or something, right?
It's Robert's
Where
bitch.
did you hear that they lost it from?
I thought it just got back to Connecticut. It was in New Orleans a couple weeks ago. Hold on now. What the fuck just happened?
Yeah, what's
there was
going on
news
with
articles just a few days ago. They were lost in transit somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Just so they can make sequels.
It's flagrant if you ask me.
Right.
Start moving cursed dolls around, losing the place.
Chucky
dude,
picked
that's
it up.
flagrant.
Annabelle, the haunted parcel.
Oh man.
Right. So
Almost as bad as not warning folks that you got a haunted doll and you go into an old Civil War museum to go look at a mound. You know what I mean? And suddenly that person gets haunted for 13 years. But
Oh Jesus.
fuck all that, dude. But as far as the Warrens, so that's Ed and Lorraine Warren. They're always like, they're very well known. They've been doing a lot of ghost adventure type of investigating over the last, I think, like 50 years. They've been doing it for a hot minute. But it says the Warrens famously recorded a Halloween special from Dudleytown in the early 1970s, declaring it officially, in their quotes, demonically possessed, which essentially opened the supernatural floodgates. Since then, it has been home to all sorts of alleged paranormal experiences, with visitors witnessing all manner of spirit and phantom, as well as having unsettled feelings of dread and fear. As you might expect, the area has also drawn the attention of those enthralled with dark forces and demonic rituals, plus a healthy number of amateur ghostbusters and teenagers simply searching for trouble. In short, it's become a damned destination. So it's literally called like the village of the damned, or the town of the damned is what it's known as.
There's tons of eyewitnesses, and again, it's literally a YouTube search away of people that illegally, of course, have made their way into Dudleytown. There's reports of them walking through the woods and then hitting a patch of super cold, like almost like a section of the woods that happens to be air conditioned, where that's obviously not possible. Then they walk through and it's back to the regular temperature, or them being pushed, like hard shoved and falling, and then turning around and nobody's there. A cold hand slapping at them or something like this. There's tons of these stories, and nobody has any real quote unquote reason behind it. None of the stories make sense. But when you look at the history of this place, it doesn't take long. It doesn't take much of a deep dive anyway to show that there is obviously something there. There's obviously something, I would say, malicious, personally, a little of the malfeasance going on within the land. Is it the soil itself? Is it the radiation? Is it spiritual? Is it a burial site? Is it Salem witch-esque? Is it English curse-esque? Is it something else completely? Why do lightning strikes keep happening in this motherfucker? Why do people randomly just wander off into the woods, never to be seen again? Look, we don't have the answers.
The answer actually is yes.
Yes.
All of that.
I almost wonder if it's like a Bermuda Triangle type thing.
Why not?
Oh, yeah,
because
high strangeness.
like
it
a
reminds me
Bridgewater
of a lot of
Triangle, right?
stuff. What's that?
Like a Bridgewater Triangle, Bridgewater, Massachusetts.
Is that a thing? I have not heard of that.
Yeah, it's apparently haunted by the same war of King Philip's War. Apparently, is why that's so spooky and mysterious. But it is this kind of Bermuda Triangle concept, but on land.
Okay.
It's extremely.
My former stalker's in a mental institution there right now. I've been kind of, it's a weird place to put him. You know what I mean?
Is he the guy that made you eat a human hamburger?
That's a different guy. That's a different guy. This is Buffalo Jared Revisa. This is the guy whose family broke the curse of the goat for the Chicago Cubs. He's from this famous sports hypnosis family that they're credited with breaking the curse of the goat. And he used to work for the family business before he started his own PR firm and stalked me. And then later someone else hired him to be his PR rep. That's what he was stalking me to, wanted me to hire him as my PR rep. I'm like, I don't need a PR rep. Some guy did hire him as PR rep, and he stabbed him a lot. Then he went on a multi-state stab.
From using the money ball
Jacob.
tactic. Is
Jacob.
that not true? What the fuck?
Jacob.
Ken Revisa, famous sports hypnotist. Yeah.
Did you pay attention and see what this guy did? He was a hypnotist.
I'm saying, dude, it's scary that comes from this hypnotist family.
Watch out, Jacob.
No offense there, Jonathan. No offense.
I mean, I did hypnotize.
Wear that armor, Jacob.
Yeah. No, fuck that. Jonathan hypnotized me once before, and it was actually really cool. I highly recommend everybody go through a path.
I'm not saying there's probably not some benefits to it, right? I'm just saying, when you got a mind, I'm just saying you got a multi-state transpocalypse assassin. It seems kind of like a mind control assassin from a famous sports hypnotist family.
Well, I did bury some suggestions into his subconscious that he still hasn't stumbled across yet. So
clever. I like your style. There you go.
You put some trigger words in there.
Yeah. He starts like doing some crazy shit.
Yeah. Look, whenever Jacob starts like, pitching a tent, dudes.
Oh.
You'll know why. I just want you to know why.
I'm telling you, look, everybody calls me a fed because I'm more feet on the ground
Oh,
when
yeah.
it comes
I
to
didn't
these
know that.
beliefs.
Well,
I've been saying this, dude. If I'm the fed, Jonathan's clearly my handler. He fucking hypnotized me.
Yep.
Nothing else,
I can
y'all.
see it.
This is
I can see
fucking
the dynamic here.
yeah, you see it.
I was gonna mention something about the Warrens just really quick. So the Warrens are infamous for the Conjuring and Annabelle stuff, but they were also the first investigators for the Amityville house.
Yeah.
And they actually interviewed the actual serial killer guy, Ronald DeFeo, that murdered his whole family in there. They're also known for working the case that inspired the Exorcist movie. But what people have found is wherever they go, there is a lot of activity that follows after that. So it's like they're almost conduits for some weird activity. The year that they investigated the kid that inspired the Exorcist, Ouija board sold off the shelves. So it's like if they've been somewhere, you almost have to wonder if they didn't contribute to a little bit.
They're spiritual feds.
Well, yeah, and it's like they open up doorways that they don't know how to close and shit like that everywhere they go. So that interests me that they've been there and that they said it was demonic.
Just out of curiosity, Julia, you cover like a lot of occult ritualistic type of murders, and that's like what you're most famous for coming on The Cult. Do you ever feel like you may be evoking a lot of these types of energies whenever you're diving into stories like this? Like, does it keep you up at night? Do you see shadow entities at the base of your bed, or is there any crazy shit going on?
I might end up dead from all the stuff he talks about. I think about that often.
Whatever. No, he might really end up dead, but that's beside the point. The thing that gets me the most, that haunts me the most, I have covered a lot of like occult, ritualistic murders, but the things that get me the most upset are like things to do with kids, obviously, like when I read Program to Kill and I read about all the pedophile rings and stuff like that, the Franklin scandal, McMartin preschool. There's actually a cult, it's called Hand of God, right? Hand of God cult that you covered?
No.
Which one? The one that's a kid diddler and he thought he
God
was
of John?
Jesus and
They all think they're Jesus. They're all kid
you're
diddlers.
talking about.
You gotta be more
It's the
specific.
children of God.
Children of God
Family
cult.
International.
The
David
River
Byrne.
Phoenix family.
River Phoenix's family, and they were like,
Rose McGowan.
Yes, if your kid can't get to sleep at night, you got to diddle him from the
give him
front.
a front rub. Is what
Front
they call it.
rubs,
They made their
River-
followers do this to their own kid. Well, shit.
Rivers Phoenix said he lost his virginity at the age of 3.
That's
3 to 10,
that's coming from the cult. That's why I say like the murder the murders are almost easier to talk about because somebody died in the end and they got put out of their misery. These kids grow up and it's like the torture never stops. They're just fucked for life.
Oh, dude. Have you seen a recent picture of Amanda Bynes, bro?
Dude,
oh my God.
I talk about her all the time. She looks fucking horrible.
And she just launched her OnlyFans and apparently is making a killing now. It's insane.
Who the fuck would watch that?
She's got an OnlyFans?
The bridge, dude.
Yeah, I personally don't understand it. Listen, I like my women thick. Okay, that's not a secret. I've been very vocal about this in the past, but I mean that is not the vibe.
She looks like she works the Taco Bell drive-through in Detroit.
Oh no, I know exactly what you mean. Whenever I heard about her OnlyFans, I was like, wait a minute, is she like on a comeback? Did she rebrand herself and now she looks great or what? No, that is not the case.
There's definitely a comeback. All right.
She appears to have taken over Process, an offshoot of the Process Church of the Final Judgment, because her old buddy J.J. Bryan used to be a leader. He's dead, and there's apparently 2 females now, and I suspect she's one of them. Is leading that cult.
Amanda Bynes.
Yeah, you can just look it up. J.J. Bryan. He was a Victorianism. It's a Process Church offshoot, operated out of some art galleries. He started it after he got busted for being a spook over in Libya, and before that, he worked for Brent Scowcroft. He was Brent Scowcroft's assistant for a number of years. Brent Scowcroft was Henry Kissinger's VP of Kissinger and Associates, and also a retired Air Force general and national security advisor. Spookity spook.
Right.
Jeez.
But so Amanda Bynes, she was one of the ones that was with Dan Schneider in the hot
She was.
tub and like.
And I have no doubt that plays into it. But just look at her and Brian were tight. She was into that Victorianism stuff with Brian's cult.
Literally, JJ Bryan is known. He goes by this name because he's an artist, but he goes by the name of the Crown Prince of Hell.
Yes, sir. That's him.
So if that doesn't make anybody think of Aleister Crowley in some way, shape, or form, then I don't know what will.
It's Thelema. It's an offshoot. It's Thelema, Agape Lodge, Scientology, Process, Victorianism. I mean, they profess to be an offshoot of. It's all the process symbols and theology and Charles Manson is Jesus Christ and all that stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
And your fucking tattooed eyebrows that look like exclamation points.
I'm telling you, she's into some occult shit, and she's at the top of that cult. And now that Brian's dead.
Oh my god!
No question about it. I just imagine.
That's my allegations, at least, right? I got nothing to prove. You can see the close relationship with him. There's no question about that. Her and Brian were tight.
Dude, she orgasms and she goes, Amanda, please, just like the entire way.
That's fucking good. That's good.
I mentioned her in my 90s series for the Cult of Conspiracy because she is one of those weird ones. And, we recently covered something about Britney Spears because she's fucking, batshit these days too. Yeah. If that's even her.
If it is.
Yeah, there you go.
All the 90s people have kind of been losing it recently, but that goes back to my original point though, is all these kids were fucked up off the Disney Channel and Nickelodeon and all these Mickey Mouse Club. They all have dark histories. It's I would almost rather be murdered and somebody do some kind of weird occult ritual with my body. It's I'm dead. Who the fuck cares? But it's these kids, they don't get off the hook. It's that's life. They get a life sentence and it's way worse than death.
It's absolutely appalling.
Jacob always likes to bring up Hillary Duff about how she came out unscathed, but there's some controversy with old Cakes as well.
Oh, hold on.
She got a big fat ass now.
The Duff is what I would consider the GOAT as far as that's concerned. Now, I'm not saying this for a confirmed fact, but as far as I can tell, she is the only Disney kid to make it out of that life with her head intact. She seems to be a good person. She seems to be doing her own thing, and she wasn't drug into all of the disgustingness. I could be wrong, but as far as my research
facial
goes,
tattoos,
no facial tattoos, no drug usage.
Daddies.
No, well, she's married and just actually did a complete all natural birth, no drugs, nothing like that at home. I mean, as far as I can tell, she's up there. She's up there in the GOAT status. But Jonathan, don't break my heart here, but what do you have about the Duff?
I mean, look, sometimes we can overlook these things whenever you got dumps like a truck. What? Like that whole thing with her ass, that is astronomical, literally. However, I'm sorry, we're going to deflate that ass a little bit because she actually, this was a QAnon thing, so take it or leave it. I know
for fuck's sake.
But Hillary Duff was mentioned as
eating children.
Child trafficking.
Wow.
It's
I do remember
QAnon.
hearing about this too.
Across
And
the plan.
it makes sense because if you get out
in
of
jail
that
now?
shit unscathed, it's because you got a management position.
Right.
You're not what's her name, Amanda Bynes, sweeping the floor. You actually are executive now. I don't think you ever really get out of it.
Well, what about the black girls?
Sounds
from
like Lindsay Lohan to me, right? That's kind of, remember she was over in the Middle East trying to kidnap a kid on Instagram one day, and no one really asked any questions about it.
But Lindsay also publicly lost her fucking mind, right? As soon as she did Herbie Reloaded, immediately after that, she went downhill, and apparently she's on a comeback right now. I don't know.
She started.
Yeah, but she was speaking Farsi in that video, dude. You're a Marine. I'm sure you did some time over there in the Middle East. I mean, Farsi's not a language you pick up overnight.
Nah, Pashtun and Farsi are absolutely hard languages to learn. Their sentence structure is completely back-asswards from English.
That's what I'm saying, and she's speaking fluently in that video from when she's trying to kidnap that kid. I'm like, what is going on in there?
No, she's been activated.
So this is where a lot of that QAnon shit about Hillary Duff really started. So it was trending back in 2020, but she had posted a video of her 8-year-old son naked on Twitter. And let me see. So she said that someone pointed out on Instagram that I did a nude of her son. So I did a nude of Luca, which is the name of her son. And then she goes, which I did. So we covered that up with a sticker. It's like you put your naked son on Instagram and Twitter, and then you're like, then we're going to just throw a little sticker up there. That almost sounds like maybe you're fishing.
I hadn't heard about that one.
No, sounds like something you find on James Pontus Instagram.
Something like you see what's his name? Tom Brady. You know what I'm saying? How he was with his 8-year-old son. It sounds something akin to that.
Oh.
Fuck.
When were they kissing? Is that the one? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
A little too long.
They're necking behind the stadium, behind the stands.
It's disgusting. Also, I'm not a big fan of Tom Brady, but
Me
I think
neither.
he's a little overhyped, but neither here nor there.
He also skirted charges in that whole FTX thing that he took about $500 million for sponsoring. So, I got questions.
Dude,
He's
I'm
also
so tired of
benefited from witchcraft too.
Oh,
I agree
I
with
was just
that.
going to say that Giselle was a professed witch from Brazil.
Yeah,
I
his
did not know
fucking
that.
career spiraled out of control after she left his life, which is,
Yep.
his age.
Yep.
Who knows?
Yep.
It could be either way, but it is
What are you talking about?
Tom Brady's ex-wife. She left him for like her jiu-jitsu trainer or something.
Giselle
Right.
She was the highest paid
Bunchins.
Victoria's Secret model. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Oh
she had actually said, or
I forget
Tom
about
has
that.
actually said that, oh yeah, my wife is involved in witchcraft, and she just so happened to guess right every time I would play in the Super Bowl, because he went to like 7 or 8, or I don't know how many fucking Super Bowls he went to, maybe 9, something like that. And because I think he won 6 Super Bowls, and I guess she allegedly, quote unquote, guessed right every time that he was going to win or lose.
Because she made it happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She was pissed at him when they played the Giants.
He's
I
a
never
witch.
heard this before. No, I never heard. I mean, I'm into it. I never
Before
heard
every
she was a
game.
witch.
Oh yeah, she's quite open about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just don't. I hate Tom Brady so much. I pay so little attention to it. So I've completely. It's clearly a blind spot for me here. Now I gotta go. I'm gonna check that out.
Would you say it's possibly a blind side?
I might have been blindsided. Yeah, there you go.
God damn.
Yeah.
See, I don't even watch the NFL, to be honest with you. I can't tell you the last time I sat and watched a game. I just can't. I'm not knocking those that are into it by any means. Everybody's got to find their blue pill thing. I get that, right? But, dude, it's so fucking rigged. And even trying to watch a game now, there's so many new rules that they didn't have when I was growing up. It makes it unenjoyable.
Well, and the whole
Oh, they're
spectacle
awful.
of sports just saturated with
It's awful.
the culture now that I used to enjoy football, but last time I tried to watch a game, it was just like all this stuff that didn't used to be there.
Yeah.
So I'm not missing it.
There's actually some substance. I mean, some actual real substance. What you're saying, not just I'm not diminishing your opinion there, Colby. I'm just saying like the league's changed a lot over the years. It is one team now. Like legally speaking, they make all their decisions now. It's like 132 branched team basically, where they all profit share, right? Like,
Oh, dude, and it's listed as
back in the
entertainment.
80s wasn't like that, right? It was a whole different kind of league. I mean, I'm looking back. I mean, it has evolved quite a bit to the point where it is just become this real shitty product, if you ask me. But
Oh, dude,
it's
we
always
did an
been,
episode of it.
been scandalous, though, right?
We did a deep dive on the NFL. They are the only sport that is listed as an entertainment, not as an athletic division. Meaning,
Even wrestling?
that the No,
It is
well,
wrestling.
I mean, wrestling.
Oh,
is
yeah, I mean,
also
that-
an entertainment. I'm not calling that a sport.
Yeah, so I was like, wait, yeah,
Yeah,
that's a little, yeah.
But
Sorry.
you would think that when you watch a game, an NFL game, you're watching competition, you're watching athleticism.
Nope.
No, dude. According to the American law, they are being taxed as an entertainment industry, meaning
Well,
that the games are rigged. There is a
they're not taxed.
Yeah, right.
The individual team owners are taxed, but the league's not taxed. Again, there's just so many games they play with these legal mechanisms
Holy
over the years
shit,
that
yeah.
over the years the folks have corrupted those legal mechanisms they corrupted back in the 60s to this point where it's and it's always gangsters. The whole league was started by gangsters. It's still it's a lot of organized crime figures. Paris Hilton's uncle had to sell his team as the Chargers because he was an organized crime guy.
Absolutely.
I was telling Nick that it's the only sports thing where they have the combine, and if you know anything about picking cotton, they're called combines. It's like public auctioning.
Wasn't that a Nike commercial? Didn't they make a Nike commercial with Colin Kaepernick of that? Am I just imagining?
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
Right? if not, they should have. They missed an opportunity.
Oh, dude! Speaking of Colin Kaepernick, there was a guy that I went to high school with, literally lived right next door to in Louisiana. His name is Eric Reed, and he was one that was like always on Colin Kaepernick's side every time he was taking a knee or holding his fist up in the air or whatever. So it's just crazy, like how small of a world it is. Whenever, like, legit, dude, I used to live next to this fucking guy, and he was the quietest of all. Like, never talked, like, super shy, and all of a sudden he's leading some kind of Black Lives Matter movement. I'm like, there's definitely some corrupt shit going on in the NFL. Well, really in all sports.
Absolutely.
Imagine being Colin Kaepernick's adoptive parents. Like, what a dick this kid is. We raised him. We took him to all these football games. You know what I mean?
Think about being Camel Toe Harris's dad, who she's saying like, "Oh, I'm Jamaican.
Oh, yeah.
I get down with this and this and this." Her dad is a white dude. Okay,
he's
who
like,
is a professor.
Yeah, we're Scott's Irish, lady. What are you talking about?
Right. He's a professor. He has worked his ass off to get to a level where his name is reputable in education. And all she's saying is, "Oh, he's Jamaican. We smoke that reefer." And he's just like, "Fuck you."
Legally speaking, they're Jamaican, but the Hamiltons and the Browns moved there about in the early 1700s from Scotland and Ireland, so they're Jamaican in that regard.
Yeah.
Well, she's part of the Brahmins, like the fucked up Brahmins.
That's her mom's side. Yeah, the Indian side. That's the even worse side, if you ask me.
It depended on who she was talking to, depending on what race she claimed. Kamala was just trash. Absolute trash.
Trash ass bitch 100.
She
I heard her
just
claim American. I heard her claim black. I heard her claim white. I heard her claim Indian. I heard her claim Southeast Asian. Like, I'm sorry, you cannot actually be a Heinz 57 when we know who the fuck your parents are, bitch. Like,
right.
Hey, I know. I'm just an asshole Republican, I suppose. But yeah.
I'm with you, Jacob. 100.
I love that.
Anyway.
I enjoyed the Kamala show, though. It was a good show to watch. I mean, that it's funny to watch. It's a lot of comedy, if you ask me, because who knows who's running things these days, but it certainly wasn't her, and it certainly wasn't the other fella. You know what I mean? Biden.
Oh, bro, she was America's drunk aunt. Every time she spoke, it sounded like she just downed 2 fucking bottles of cab and was just spitting off at the mouth about whatever. She seemed like a drunk aunt at the party.
Yeah, she was washing down some benzos with some wine for breakfast for sure. That's the Kamala Harris power breakfast.
It still blows my mind that the left really tried running her as like the
dead serious about it.
And it's like,
dead serious.
Yeah.
Well, that's how dumb they are. They're like, this is a good candidate. We're gonna be right behind her. I mean, that's the nature
but
of it.
Don't you think that was intentional? Like they threw her in there to throw the game.
I think so, but at the same time, they ruined themselves. And I don't mean to turn this into a whole political conversation, but at the same time, why not? If the left as a whole cannot find a person who is likable, who is not a psychopath, then I don't know if they'll win another election, at least for the next 4 or 5. Like that seems to be the thing, right? If you could find somebody who's just left of center, who can make the screaming libtards satisfied enough, but also seems like a decent person who seems even slightly remotely competent to run against whoever the fuck goes after Trump, right? And I don't know who that will be. I'm hearing things that are saying
that's a good question, but
maybe he'll groom his children to take on that. Maybe we'll have a Trump dynasty, Donald Jr. or even Ivanka, or who knows? Who knows? Barron when the time comes. Who knows? Realistically. Go ahead.
You realize Hillary's already thrown her hat in to run in the 2028 election.
I don't know how many times
witch's cap, that is,
Yeah, witch's cap. The country has spoken multiple times, even when the Democrats completely chopped Bernie Sanders off at the legs to get her to the position of the DNC candidate. America doesn't want her. They never have. It's insane.
For sure. But this is why we got Biden and Harris, because of John Podesta running the DNC and league with Clinton and Obama. But really, I would argue Podesta's the one making those decisions.
I think it's honestly even deeper than that. And we talked about this in the Tavistock episodes we just recently did. It's like the only reason we know certain names is because they are somebody's bitch. Okay, the only way that we know Podesta's name, the only way we know the Rothschild's name is because they are somebody's lackey. They are answering to somebody. That's the only way we're even allowed to know their names. And when you get to that level of it, we're talking the international shadow government that is running the world. I'm not saying it's Tavistock. I'm not saying it's the Committee of 300. I'm not saying it's the Club of Rome. I'm thinking it's all their boss, right? It's
I'm tracking.
Well, don't you think Tavistock?
You just named the hierarchy there too, from Podesta through through Linda Rothschild. You know what I mean? So that you know what you're talking about there as far as these connections go. Where the commands are coming from, I don't know, but they're going through. But Podesta, the Jesuit fella, you know, there, and him and Tony are deep in with the Vatican to date. You know, they're taking orders from somebody, but they're portraying those orders, manifesting those orders through. They're big occultists. They're definitely manifesting them through. You know, Hillary Clinton, you know, Obama, because they did a deal together back at Dianne Feinstein's lair back there in 2009. So,
God,
you know, they're all on one team. They're all in the same. They're all cahooting.
Feinstein's another one that I'm not saying that I wish for anybody's death, but I'm saying that she needs to go away. Like it's time.
She's dead, dude.
Go to the house. Eat some tapioca.
Didn't she die?
You know, Feinstein's not dead yet, is she?
I think she is. Maybe I'm thinking Pelosi's died. No, I think Pelosi's alive.
No,
they're both
Pelosi
evil. They're both evil witches from San Francisco.
Yeah, Pelosi's husband and her are under indictment right now for insider trading.
Feinstein's dead though. She died in office though, right? Maybe the Chinese spy killed her. That was her driver.
Oh shit!
Died in 2023.
Good. I mean, the RIP and all that, but like, fuck yes. All right. Okay, I didn't know that.
She was in office thanks to a Twinkie.
Yeah, that was. I forgot about that.
That's an actual story. She came to power thanks to a Twinkie.
But I think it's all a part of the plan, right? Even our American politics right now, I believe that our elected officials are selected, not elected. And while this past election, I believe that, yes, the American people's voices were heard. I also think there was no possible way that they could have pretended like Kamala won this election like they did with Biden. Right. They could at least try to put the pieces together. They stole the election 100%. That's not even up for conjecture. And fine, at least in some way, shape, or form, we could imagine a world where that's true. There's no way they could have done that with Kamala and not had a revolt on their hands. I mean, fuck, we were about 2 centimeters away from having a real life civil war if Trump would have caught that round in the dome rather than in the ear. I
hear you. I just don't know when folks are getting vaccines for cheeseburgers and French fries, how close we are to this sort of revolt. But the de Blasio commercial, but you know what I mean. But I hear what you're saying there. But I just think that you'll be surprised when folks be convinced of. I think when it's all said and done, what Biden's state of health was. I know for a fact he was getting lost in his home 10 years ago. So.
Yeah,
you know where he's at now. It's not good. Where he's at now, these reports that he was getting lost in the closet at the White House, totally believable to me. Because 10 years ago, he couldn't get his way out of his own home. So obviously, that's gonna progress. The rooms are gonna get smaller that he gets lost in. Now he's down to a closet apparently.
And I'll be honest with you, I actually have a weird able to speak on this perspective. The Joe Biden that just ran against Trump is not the same human being that was the VP under Barack.
I'm open to it.
I'm not saying he's a clone. I'm not saying he's all the acting and the plastic surgery and all of this. I'm not saying he's a cyborg. I don't know what the correct answer is. So I was stationed in Washington, D.C., okay? I actually marched in Obama's inauguration. I have put eyes on Obama and Biden myself at a very close distance. I can tell you without any shadow of any doubt, Joe Biden, that was the vice president under Barack Hussein Obama, is not the guy who ran against Trump. These are two different human beings. And I don't mean like, oh, well, he's changed a lot. No. I mean, like they have different DNA. These are different people.
I don't disagree with you, sir, because I'm a retired Air Force military police dude.
Oh, God, you were an MP.
Yeah, I planned, coordinated, and executed the 2009 inauguration duties, all the MP duties for the 2009 inauguration for the Air Force.
Where were you stationed? Anacostia?
Well, I was stationed over at Andrews and at the Pentagon during my 7 years there in D.C.
Andrews is where I did my pistol qual, as a matter of fact. So I was stationed at 8th and I in Washington, D.C.
Okay, I'm familiar with these spots. Yep.
Yes, indeed.
And the range at Andrews used to be run by a number of my friends over the years. Ran that range.
So wait, you were there from what year to what year? I was there from 10 to 14.
I was there from 2006 to 2014.
Son of a bitch. We were chopping up the same dirt at the same time. First of all, I think you can agree with me. Fuck DC.
Yeah, well, yeah, I could agree with you in 2014 when I left the place.
Oh my God, the traffic there alone. Fuck the how dangerous it is and how it smells and all of that.
Yeah.
Dude, the traffic alone is horrible.
Do you recall any of
Traffic
the folks
sucks.
working the range over there at Andrews? Perhaps a very short, very bald fellow with BCG glasses like you get in basic training?
Yeah, actually, I don't remember the name, but I remember that particular.
Well, he ran the range over there from 2008 to 2013. His name was Rob Karate. I taught that man how to use a walkie-talkie, because that's what he would call them back in Saudi Arabia back in 2000. It was right when they moved all the combat arms guys into security forces, molding combat arms and law enforcement and security all into one field. This dude was a combat arms guy, by training before they molded him into that. And he had never even touched any sort of radio communications before. And he was a staff sergeant. I was an airman first class. So,
All right, dude, first of all, I need to ask you something, because I keep telling this story and people think I'm lying. You were there during this time frame. Do you remember when a guy jumped the fence at the White House, made it through all the security, and got caught in the White House making a sandwich in the kitchen?
On the door.
Yes. No, he broke in, dude, and he was in the kitchen making a sandwich, and it was while Obama was there. Do you remember this?
No, I remember that he initially did knock on the door, encountered one Secret Service agent who did not apprehend him, and then he proceeded on into the kitchen. He's like, well, fuck it, no one's going to stop me.
Dude, I've been trying to tell people that this happened. They're like, no, it didn't. I'm like, bro, look it up.
Absolutely happened.
And
Absolutely
I talked to guys who worked at Secret Service years later, and I'm like, bro, how many different security measures did he hit? And how many of y'all watched him and just let him go? Like, what were you doing?
Yeah.
And the answer I got was, we were kind of bummed that the kitchen was where he was headed. I'll leave it at that. And I'm just like, bro, what the fuck? And then cut to the Secret Service blunder that was Butler, Pennsylvania. And it's like, I'm starting to think that the Secret Service might also be bought.
They weren't known for doing their jobs in 11/22/63, were they? So I mean, it is kind of their thing, right?
Jesus Christ! I'm glad someone else can remember this and was there when that took place. Good God! And that chick,
weird town, man. I saw a lot of weird shit in that town.
Building. Yeah.
Oh, what's that?
And that woman that tried driving her car into the Capitol building and didn't get very far up the steps with it.
The one that got popped real quick.
Oh yeah, she got popped.
I was in that's when I left active duty, was in the reserves at Andrews. I was the superintendent of the security reserve unit there on that flight line. And one of my troops was a Capitol police officer involved in that incident.
God damn. Yeah, what a wild time to live in D.C. Oh, you were there for the
horrible town. It's a den of iniquity.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did want to mention, so you guys were talking about how Biden's a clone. Trump actually shared a truth. I guess it's called a truth. It's not a tweet on Truth Social or whatever. He shared a message on there saying that there is no Biden. There is no Joe Biden. He was executed in 2020, and Biden, he's a clone. He's a clone or a double or a robotic engineered soulless, mindless entity is what you see.
Oh, shit.
It says hashtag Democrats don't know the difference.
I totally saw this. I forgot it. And that's legit. He did send that. I went on True Social to even check. I didn't even have a True Social. My first visit to True Social as a result of that post.
He said that on Twitter?
No, Truth Social. His
True
Twitter.
Social, but it was reposted onto Twitter. But I had to go verify it. I'm like, come on, it's wild shit. You have to go see if that's real. You know what I mean?
Oh,
he's a reanimated corpse. Everybody knows.
The best reanimated
Nick
corpse.
is already fallen off.
he's the soulless loser.
He's a clone, probably the best clone out there. Some are saying, I don't know, but I'm just saying he's probably a clone. Yeah, I can believe this.
Yeah, it wasn't his post, but he shared it on his page. So pretty crazy, dude. I don't think it takes a genius to find out or to look at Joe Biden and be like, yeah, that's not Joe Biden, right?
No, dude.
About the earlobes, and we talk about literally the entire facial structure is totally different. And then let's just say that he is some kind of soulless entity. Well, that would make sense for all of the children sniffing.
It would indeed. And I mean, you think back to the Biden that was there when Obama gave his leaving office speech, right? When he was stepping out, and he had made a comment about how the new administration, I have hopes that they will do what is right and what is best for the American people. And then you see Biden in the background doing like cutting a joke, and the people laughed, and like the whole thing, like he kind of had a sense of humor with them back then. That was a guy, the dude who swore in and quote unquote beat Trump. That is not the same homeboy. I'm sorry. The two don't even look alike, but to the point, the liberals, either A, they can tell the difference and they just didn't want to say anything, or B, they're that retarded and can't tell the difference. I don't know. It could be both.
It's an emperor has no clothes situation, I think, at least to some degree, you know.
I could see that.
It doesn't even matter, dude, if it was him or not. He's just a placeholder to carry out whatever they're trying to implement. So, I mean, whether he was a clone, if it was real Biden and maybe he just had like extreme dementia or whatever, like they got done what they planned on doing, I think.
Oh, yeah. That's why he pardoned every single member of his family and all the other people literally a few hours before he left office. Just started signing these mass pardons for any and all crimes that they may or may not have committed. Signed Joe Biden. Like, wait, I'm sorry. You would have to have some sort of insider knowledge to know that these people could be indicted for you to just sign such a broad.
Just guessing.
Yeah. I don't know how Dudleytown transformed into politics, but that's just usually what happens on conspiracy shows.
Well, you're not that far off. Like I said, that General Swift bill you're talking about earlier, and the rest of the early inhabitants at post-Revolutionary War were Society Cincinnati members getting land grants, and Joe Biden's a Society Cincinnati member as a result of being U.S. president, or, you know, this android Joe Biden, or what have you.
Yeah. Jesus. I mean, I don't even know if they're going to let him live much longer. And I don't mean him as in Joe. I mean the character of Joe Biden. You know what I mean? I feel like
is this thing run on chocolate chip ice cream? Is that what it is? Is this a new modern, like, technological advancement? We got an android that runs on ice cream, chocolate chip.
It's possible.
Is that his favorite?
Possible.
Isn't that what he's always eating? Why do they always show that dude eating ice cream? You ever noticed that? He's got
ice cream and Trump's got McDonald's.
Ice cream.
I don't know. There's a few
because he wants to go to the ice cream truck. He has an excuse.
He's got a brain
Every time you see him with
dude.
an ice cream cone.
Is that their way of trying to make him look more innocent? Like,
is that what it is?
Look, it's an old man eating an ice cream cone.
Yeah.
It's so cute, except it gives everybody the fucking
feeble.
creeps. It's like having the opposite effect.
I can't take away or remove that guy from the video of the guy. When I was growing up, there was this bad man. Everybody called him Popeye. And, you know, I was in the pool and the kids used to pull the leg hairs. And I know what, you know, about education. And poor kids are just as smart as white kids. And I can't remove the two.
Corn Pop was a bad dude.
Corn Pop, that's it. Corn Pop was a bad dude. It's like, wait, I'm sorry.
He ran with a bunch of bad boys, too.
I think they were asking you about the Green New Deal, big dog. But sure, let's talk about Corn Pop. Yeah.
You're a lifeguard, Joe. What are you talking about, Corn Pop? He's talking about fighting the locals as a lifeguard. So, I mean, these tales are just so I mean, it's again, back to the people running things are so dumb. They hired I assure you, they hired some PR agency to concoct this stupid corn pop tale because when everyone questioned it, they had a local Delaware news reporter do a local news report from Corn Pop's old neighborhood confirming Corn Pop did exist and not a figment of Joe's imagination.
Oh my God.
What?
That happened.
It didn't matter if he existed. Yeah, you know.
Well, that was what they took from the argument. That's what they took from the conversation.
That would be, you know, I'm not necessarily pro either political party because they're both doing disgusting, underhanded things behind closed doors, right? We can all agree with that. But I will say, as far as that's concerned, the liberals are doing the mostest of being like actual retarded. Like, I don't even understand how that's logic.
The mad scientist has something that she would love to interject, which I think is an awesome facet to this story here.
Okay.
Just very quickly, because I started looking up the area and I ran across an article that said the Nazi American Bund tried to buy Southbury, Connecticut in the late 1930s. Nick and I talked about the Nazi American Bund being involved heavily in Long Island and with a lot of these laboratories that have been linked to eugenics and with children testing and what have you, one of them being in Montauk. But when you look at Southbury, Connecticut, and you judge the distance to Dudleytown, Connecticut, it's about 30 miles away.
Oh, wow. And so it was in 1937, which was around about the time that they shut it down to the public.
Interesting.
Wow.
Well, and you know what cued me in is that when you said that it was established in 1747, And Nick and I have gone back and forth with the 1947 being linked to a lot of the German experimentation here in the States.
Oh, shit.
I could believe it. Project Paperclip, y'all. It's worth a look
Yeah,
into.
the 47th president.
So
This year is 1978, and this year had the same calendar, and that's 47 years ago as well.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Comes with that 4-7.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Was there anything else that you guys had on that? We're already over 2 hours, so I figured maybe.
No, that's about it.
Yo, that was a lot. That was a lot. Yo, that town is fucked up. Something wrong with that place.
It's on my bucket list of places I want to go check out for myself, but I don't know if I'm willing to catch a charge for a video.
I never.
Yo, if you guys go, let me know. I'll go. I'll bring my equipment. I'll go with you guys.
I need a mugshot. I'm jealous of all these people, all
I'll
these
send
social
my-
media influencers.
We can
They
send
all
the
have
drone up
mugshots.
first. See what happens.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'll just
That's
call
why
them.
I would go, because I would do the drone first to see what happens.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Oh, man. We got to make it happen one of these days.
Yeah. Let everybody know what's up and where they can find your amazing work again. Please, guys.
All right, so it's the Cult of Conspiracy podcast. We got banned off of YouTube, and so we don't play in those waters. We wear it as a badge of honor, though. But if you do want to be able to see the video content, we are on Patreon. So it's patreon.com/Cult of Conspiracy podcast. It's the best way to be able to support the show, but it's also the place where you get the shows a couple of days in advance. And we also have, if you sign up for the Third Eye All the Way Open tier, it allows you access to come join us live every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Central. You ain't doing shit on a Tuesday. You may as well just come hang out with all the good cult members with that Third Eye All the Way Open. But I would say the best value, the best bang for the buck that you get over at Patreon is that it is completely
Commercial free listening, y'all.
yeah, buddy. Yeah, that's the way. So if you want to come check us out over at Patreon, feel free to do so. If not, then come check us out over at the Cult of Conspiracy podcast on all podcast platforms everywhere.
Awesome. Holy shit. Thank you.
Also we have TikTok, we have Instagram, we have Twitter, all that fun jazz.
Yeah.
All the Cult of Conspiracy.
Hell yeah. Thank you guys very much. That was well presented. I mean, that was a chock full of information in there and a lot of wild shit. Really
Appreciate y'all for having us, man.
Yeah, that really was a real barn burner for real. I'll leave your guys' stuff in the bottom. I got, and I'll put everybody here who's their links. I'll throw it in the bottom. Thank you all again very much. I had a blast. And until the next one, everybody be well. Later.